Hey anglers, we hope you join us February 3rd at Grand Lake of the Cherokees in Grove, Oklahoma. It's our first time on that lake. We're really pumped about it. Again, we got 100% payback for a $300 entry. We also have our Grassroots series as a $50 entry, 100% payback. But come join us, Grove, Oklahoma, Grand Lake of the Cherokees. Going to be a fun time, February 3rd. Hope to see you there. All right. Hey, we're live. Monday night, Twisted Cat Outdoors live podcast. We got a special guest on tonight, like we always do. But a few quick things. We're just a few days away from Grove, Oklahoma, Grand Lake of the Cherokees. Again, you can still register online. You can register Friday night and Saturday morning. Everything will take off out of Wolf Creek. We'll be at the casino, and all that information we'll still post on the website. But really excited. $300 entry, 100% payback plus $500 big fish on the main series. And we'll also have our Grassroots $50 entry, 100% payback. So this will be stop number 2 for the Twisted Cat Outdoors Tournament Trail for the 10th season. So this is the 10th season for Twisted Cat Outdoors. And again, thanks to all the sponsors and everybody that's helped grow Twisted Cat. And now, like I said, we're doing a podcast every Monday night, which is fun, having different anglers on, different people in the industry. And tonight we have a special guest out from the East Coast, Dieter Melhorn from Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you got questions, anything, ask in the chat. We'll try to get them answered. And again, tonight's just to talk about the world of catfishing, exploring it, seeing where we're at, the past, the present, the future. Whether it's tournaments, social media, any of that stuff. We're just going to kind of dive in. So without further ado, let's bring our guest, Dieter Melhorn, in.
Woo! I'm here, brother. How you doing, man?
Good. It's 8 o'clock there, though, I guess. I'm going to.
It is 8 o'clock. Yeah. I actually did a bunch of promos for you today, and I had the time right. I screwed it up 3 or 4 times, but it was 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. So there you go. Hey, I got a question. Yes. Are you still, do you still do Ripping Lips rods?
Yes.
I'll show you what I got here. I don't know if you can see them in the thing here. Some Ripping Lips rods that you sent me way back. I did some videos when I first started. I was just going to let you know that we're redoing our sponsors this year. So there's room over here for the rods on this side. So yeah, I like we'll work on that later. We'll work on that later. No, I still got those things.
Yeah, we'll talk about sponsorships. And,
we'll get into sponsors tonight.
Like we were talking in backstage, what's crazy with this industry, and you can get into it by accident, and kind of like I did, totally. I'm in Warsaw, Illinois, right on the Mississippi River. When I say I'm on it, I mean it's like 30 yards behind me. Nice. And my family grew up pleasure boating. I didn't really care too much about fishing. My grandpa had a pond. I went fishing there, but for 24 years of my life, I didn't really care about fishing. And then a guy that I worked with took me out one night, changed my life. And fast forward now, I'm part owner in Ripping Lips and a rod company, and work for Sea Arc Boats and run a tournament trail and stay busy, man. And, I love every second of it. But like we talked about, the social media aspect of things, where it's always what the people see, the followers. It's the behind the scenes, that's where a lot of work happens. A lot of the blood, sweat, tears, I guess you might say. So, but yeah, so I'm glad you're on here. We'll try to answer some questions. I see some people in chat. Where do we start? Where do you want to start?
Where do we start? What my last podcast, the one that I thought it was going to get tournament anglers up in a roar. It got some online YouTubers up in a roar. The basic complaint in everything that I was saying was that, and we talked about this backstage beforehand, is just the tournament world. You think it's still growing. I'm thinking it's kind of plateaued. And, and the whole thing of growth, this spurred a bunch of stuff online talking about growth. How do we grow the sport? Let's start with that. Why do we need to grow the sport? Now, obviously, you work for Sea Arc. You'll sell more boats if the sport grows. You got fishing rods, you'll sell more fishing rods, but does it benefit the anglers in any way by growing the sport?
I don't know if it's about growing the sport. I think we always say that term, let's grow the sport. And I guess something that it's kind of like, that guy that took me out fishing. I didn't know nothing about it, and I just got to go with him. And something that I've done, I feel like I've gotten a lot of people into the sport just from taking a friend fishing. Um, Spencer Bauer, another one, like I said, you got YouTube, you're a YouTube guy. People that
Mhm.
see you out what you're doing, that you can do it. That's how they get into the sport. And I think growing it obviously helps everything. You know what I mean? So if growing the sport gets a guy out of, and I've got one of those that fish my trail. Because we talk about money pits, whether it's tournaments or fishing, everybody has a hobby. I was men's fast pitch league. We paid tournament entries. At the end of the weekend, if we won, we got a plaque and some, some awards. You get no money.
Right.
I've got some friends that are in that race stock cars, and that is a money pit. But I guess for me, fishing is kind of my money pit. But as we get more people involved, it does. Then you got to talk about conservation. I truly believe that, and you might disagree, that tournaments, social media, the bigger the sport gets, not that we're trying to grow it faster, but that helps promote conservation. You take bass fishing. I've been watching a lot of those podcasts where, they have BASS. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't know a lot about it until, I read into it, that it was from 1967 is when that was created. That's a long time ago. And where it's came now, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that can help grow it. I don't know that we're growing it at a rapid rate, but I do think it is growing. Like we said, 10 years ago, how many people were making money on social media in just strictly catfishing? Right. Like you said, go ahead and tell them.
Luke Nichols, Catfish a Carp. He was the only one. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there was a buildup. I do think there was a run up. I think it tapered off sharply after 2021-ish, somewhere in there. I think there was a lot of stuff happened in 2020, like there was with every industry. When people had the time off to go fishing, things blew up. A lot of them had money because of government stipends and everything else that were handed out. But I think since then, and I mean, God, we're approaching, we're into 3 years down the road from that. I think things have somewhat plateaued. To a certain extent, I agree with the platforms, whether it be social media platforms or tournaments, can be used to promote conservation. Sadly, I think tournaments have done a horrible job of doing that historically. One of the biggest complaints, if you've ever listened to any of my stuff, has been the fish limits. Slowly, they started to reduce them. They finally got them down, but still we're trying to carry 2 or 3 massive fish that you can catch in places like Wheeler, the James River, the Mississippi. Why are you carrying all those big, massive fish to the scales when you can bring one? I mean, you got an 80, 90, 100-pound fish. And I know what the argument's going to be. Well, tell us what the argument for that is. Why is this turning into me interviewing you? This is terrible. I feel bad.
No, it's not. It's a good question. There was a tournament this weekend, a one fish tournament. So as I'm a tournament director, I got my start in fishing tournaments. When I get to fun fish, I'm trying to fish a tournament because I just love to be competitive. But when it goes to a one fish limit, 2, 3, 4, 5, I mean, obviously it's about conservation. And I've always been with Twisted Cat since day one, 3 blues when it's a big fish, you know what I mean? Or if it's 5, if you got slots. But one fish, and I've talked to a lot of guys about this, is luck. And I'm not, I'll get some hate over it. But if it's 3, and even my opinion on 3 fish, and I've talked to this about a lot of anglers, you take the Mississippi River, you got a 3 fish limit. Okay. So I had a championship and 2 fish over 90 were caught. So second place was 97. They had a 97-pound big fish, and then they had like 106 in total weight. Not that they got lucky and caught the big fish, but third place, had a couple good ones, but they didn't have that giant. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my, take on it. And like I said, it's being consistent instead of lucky.
Then let me ask you this. What you're saying in effect is you want the most skilled angler with angling skill to win, not somebody who gets lucky. You want it to be about angling skill, I assume is what you're saying, because it would take more skill, in your opinion, to catch 3 good fish than 1 fish.
100%. I say the more fish. Yes.
Well, that's a great idea. Why don't we do this then? If we want to make it about skill, why don't we let them fish with 1 rod and 1 rod only? Oh, wait. I got an idea. Why not take the sonar units off the boat, take off $10,000 worth of electronics, and let them figure out how to catch them like the Indians. The Indians were pretty good at doing that kind of stuff because they had to eat. If you truly want to make it about skill, we can do that. I don't think it's about skill. I think it's about more than that.
Yeah, I do like it about skill, but the thing about skill is, yes, now you start taking, you'd like our live tournament. When I wanted to do this one-on-one just for fun, I've been calling people out, and I called Brian out, and we finally did it. And we had a lot of thoughts about what if during it, the first hour we have board, we spin it and it says chicken, and we can only use chicken, or we can only use 1 rod. The issue is then you have a lot less fish catching. But I mean, we have looked into
it's about skill, though. It's not about big fish. It's about skill. We want the tournament to be about skill.
100%.
So then let's make it a challenge.
I'm worried about it. I want to be challenged. Yeah. I want to be challenged.
Let's let nobody show up with any bait. Instead of a bunch of rich guys rolling into town and buying $700 worth of skipjack from somebody, let's let them show up. No bait. Let's go catch the bait you're going to catch the fish with. If people truly want, see, I think the skill argument is one that's been repeated and been regurgitated over and over, and everybody started to believe it at this point. There's more to it than that. I think that if we were truly interested in protecting the fish, we do it with 1 fish. That way, you're only killing, you're only harming, you're only subjecting 1 fish to any stress. Plus, entry-level grassroots people have a much easier time keeping 1 fish alive because they don't have a Sea Ark that has a 100-gallon live well. All they may have is a big old igloo cooler where they can get about 50 gallons in. Makes it a lot easier for grassroots people to get into the sport. And I've heard a lot of talk lately about people wanting to, get new people in, get, people who are new to the sport,
we have a grassroots series to get in.
To the 1 fish limit?
2 fish limit. But we have, you got to think though, a lot of our places that we go just aren't all big fish. You know what I mean? There's times that we have a 5 fish limit that's 46 pounds.
But that's all about the pounds. That's where I think the chest thumping comes in a little bit with tournament directors and everybody. They want to see a big weight up there. Oh, we got 90 some pounds. They feel like if you're fishing for channel cats, if you're truly about skill, catching 1 big, 12-pound channel cat, if you catch one of those in Lake Wiley, you're, the hero of the world. Who cares if it's 5 or whatever? That's just a big, again, I think that's a chest thumping number. People like seeing the big numbers just like they see in the big payouts. That big, payout number is always like, ooh, it's impressive. It gets people to look. It's my argument.
But 100%. And then you have the same argument with guides. You know what I mean? As there's more guides, you take my area in the Midwest. When I first got into the sport, I only know of 1 guide in the Mississippi River where I'm at. And now there's 15.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you take 15 guides 2 times a day. Does that, when they're catching fish and putting them back right away, what's the mortality there? Everything.
Oh, that's a real good question. I'm a charter captain. I'm one of them. I'm a charter captain. We release everything over 10 pounds. So there's a bunch of fish with gouged out eyeballs and hooks in their corner of their jaw and everything else that are released. They're released alive. I think, according to the biologists around here, mortality is not that high, especially when they're released immediately and they go into a whole big algorithm of it goes up the longer they're kept and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you got a very good point there. There's an impact from those anglers too on what happens with those fish.
Yeah. And like I said, as the sport grows, we learn more and more. I mean, I've worked with Western Illinois University for 2 years. They came to every event that I had, even some other things that we did studies with them, and they tagged every fish, diet samples, all that stuff to learn about them. And like I said, there's so much to learn. And you take catfishing. The problem is it seems like it's becoming an invasive species in a lot of areas. I mean, out there on the James, it seems like you guys struggle with invasive species out there. We don't hear, but
Not
I talked to the biologists and
non-native.
Non-native, 100%.
I've got a podcast coming up Wednesday where I talk with Captain Christian Moore about that, and I laugh because they mince the terms of there's invasive and there's non-native. The blue cat is this is on a different direction. The blue cat is not an invasive species on the James River. It is non-native. The blue catfish that swim up into Maryland are invasive, even though they came from the non-native stock. Non-native is a fish that's not from there that they've introduced. It would be like a hybrid bass. It's a non-native fish. It's not invasive because it didn't make its way in there. Basically, non-native is invited. Invasive is not invited to the game. So,
but I mean, look at what anglers have done now in Louisiana, going down there and catching. I mean, I went down there. I had the chance to go down there and experience that. I mean, it's something like you've never seen before.
yeah.
Where are those fish all hiding down there? Do they migrate up to Mississippi at different times of year? I mean, I took Liz
I think
down
that was
there.
a low water. Wasn't that blamed on a low water deal? And because basically it was a drought condition that the salt water was pushing further up, thus pushing the catfish further up. So a lot of those fish that were scattered 20 miles below that were being pushed further up. And that's where you got those really good concentrations. It'll be interesting if it happens again, if they get that kind of,
but
fun.
we did. So I did some research on my own, just YouTube videos and stuff. And there's some guides down there, and they've been doing it for years. And what I've seen and noticed is the blue cats that they catch when there's a lot more salt, they come and they got a lot of red sores all over their body.
Oh, really?
I was down
there. That's
probably
a whole different class of bacteria and everything that grows in that water.
Yeah. So I think that's year round. I think that that's something new. I think that more people are going down there. And like I said, the Mississippi River there's just like the biologists that I talked to, the Illinois, Missouri, Tennessee, as we're trying to get regulations, and that's a whole nother topic. We don't know a lot about blues or catfish in general. There's studies, but I'm trying to get the state of Illinois to let us actually monitor like electronic tags where you can monitor as they travel. Everything's recorded from the depth of the water to the day and everything, and watch their migration. But there's just a lot to be done. But I think we're learning. I mean, like you go back to some of these places didn't have blue cats in the 90s. So, I mean, it's still which the 90s has kind of been a long time ago now, but
yeah. Listen, I'm a lot older than you. I grew up fishing a lake that did not have blue catfish in it. And I've been fishing since I was a kid. I mean, I got rough memories, 6 years old out there fishing the same lakes that I fish now. And we didn't have blue cats. I mean, I remember the rumors of them showing up in the 90s that they were in there and that people had caught them, but you were still catching double-digit channel catfish then. And, it wasn't until the 2000s that they really started to show up with any intensity. So, yeah, they're not everywhere, but they have expanded to a lot more of the country.
Just reading some of these. These are flying in fast. So let's talk a little bit about Huh?
I was sitting here looking. There was one back here somewhere that I was going to answer, but there's so many of them coming in. Oh, Rodney Robertson says no one wants to see little fish at a weigh-in. I can kind of agree with that. People like to see them, and people said that in the crowd doesn't like to see them. Honestly, there ain't that big. I mean, there are tournaments with good crowds. The vast majority of tournaments do not have huge crowds outside of the tournament anglers that are showing up for them. That's one of the sad things that we got to overcome, is to get more people interested. And that was one of the things I was talking about in the podcast. I think this whole little box right here, YouTube and Facebook, is going to be the future of really just getting these tournaments out to the world so people can see them, because it's going to be hard. I haven't seen anybody do it yet. And again, this may be happening on your side of the mountains. On our side of the mountains, I haven't seen it happen to where they've turned and I think there is one tournament I've seen online that turned these tournaments into a spectacle, a festival, an event, something to go to besides just a weighing in a bunch of catfish. And if they could ever get it to that point to where, I don't know, you've got a barbecue cook-off, a chili cook-off, a fair, some live music going on. And this is just one of the wheels in the cog. It can either be built around it or built alongside of it. I think that's where you're going to get a lot more notoriety, a lot more views, a lot more people watching, and ding, 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 more bang for the buck for Sea Arc, for Multi-Bar, for, Ripping Lips Rods, whoever's there to put their brand in front of it, or a Wawa, QT, a Buc-ee's, anything like that. The non-endemic brands that have been hard to come by in the catfish world, and I think we're a long way from getting. Man, I got off on the diatribe on that one. Sorry. Rein me back in.
So, and let's get back to that 100%. And one thing I noticed, the first few tournaments besides Aaron Wheatley's Matches on the Ohio, it's out of a tailgate. Nothing wrong with that if that's what it is. But my goal coming from, my family had a DJ business, so doing events, you know what I mean? Not that I have no classing and how to put on an event, but I really enjoy it and put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in it. And what my goal has been the last 2 and 3 years, what I've learned is the anglers are there and they're going to continue to grow. But, you take like the Alton Catfish Classic. I mean, we had a record turnout this year. We're giving cash prizes to spectators. So you get a ticket, and that's something that, I learned from the bass world that they're doing that. Yeah. So we had a giant crowd. We're doing it with their festival. So we're building these weigh-ins now. New Madrid, Missouri. They got a Casey's, a Dollar General, and a Mexican restaurant. No hotels, but they have their main street right off the riverfront. They do their festival. We weigh in right there. So we're trying to, or my goal is at these places we go. I have an event in March, middle of March, Fort Smith, Arkansas, during their St. Patrick's Day party, right during it. So everybody there that's at this party is going to watch that weigh-in.
Yeah.
That is, but like you said, I mean, that's how you see some of the sponsors on here, and not on here yet, but the Mossy Oak, the CDEC. I mean, those people see what the goal is and being a part of it. And I mean, sponsorships, that is a deep dive into a lot of questions from a tournament series getting sponsorships, and an angler, whether you're a TikTok angler, YouTube angler, tournament angler, it all is ROI. What's the return on investment? What are you doing? What is Alex Nagy and Twisted Cat doing for Power Pull? What is their return? Why should they sponsor me? What is CDEC? What's Mossy Oak? What's Pro Guide get? You have a lot of anglers that ask that question, and you have a good platform, on YouTube, Facebook. That's a big thing. And I think one thing I've been watching some G-Man podcast, and I actually got it queued up here. But what he says is, go after it. It's the work behind the scenes that people don't see. But you've got to, if you're a tournament angler or you're a TikTok guy and you're out there and you fish 9 tournaments a year, you can't just, even if you go fish a tournament, there's 100 boats or there's 10 boats and you get 10th or you get last, you don't catch a fish. It's not about winning. You know what I mean? It's about what you're showing other people. You know what I mean? Whether it's your following, and your following is, as a Rippin' Lips brand or Sea Arc brand, if I pro staff you, it's about the media that I can get, that I can share on my page. But the big thing that I want is your following. I'm going after you because you have a following that trusts you. So like Jeff Williams said with Team Catfish, when he was doing videos, he didn't have to put his rod in his mouth. People knew what he was using. They trusted him and they wanted to go buy that product. That's what they bought. You know what I mean? And that's a huge thing. And that's why tournament anglers ain't gonna like this, but not a lot of people are chasing that everyday thing. And that's what, like they talk about in this podcast, is it is a grind. What I do is a grind. What a lot of people do is a grind, especially the TikTok. My hat's off. I could not go live every night or day like some of these guys do. That is wild. I know Chunky, every time I get on TikTok, I think Chunky's live. I don't know if it's all day or all night, but he has a big following.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Tournament anglers, catfish tournament anglers, they're terrible at promoting their brand and the brands that they're there to represent. They're just bad at it. They don't know how to do it. They get up on Facebook and, oh, we had a good finish today. Hashtag whoever your sponsors are. Dude, that ain't doing nothing. The only people that are reading that are the family and friends, the few people you got following you on Facebook. And that's if they even see it. It's not showing up. It's not getting disseminated out on the social media anywhere. When people hit me up about sponsoring stuff all the time because I got a YouTube channel. My first question is, what are you going to do for me? But this is the same thing when I go to somebody that is sponsoring or that I'm working with. It's like, that's the first thing I say to them. This is what I'm going to do for you. I give them a list of what I can do for them, stuff that nobody else can do. That's the same thing these people who are wanting a sponsor need to do. They need to go to these people and say, this is what I can do for you. Now, granted, most of them don't have anything to give except wearing a jersey that, it's getting limited eyeballs on it. I mean, they want exposure. The thing in the marketing world is you want people to see it. So if you have 1,000 people that see it, you're going to be lucky if you get about maybe 100 that even notice it. So if it's exposed to them, you may get 100. Then out of that, you may get maybe 10 that may actually remember it and it will make an impression on. If you convert any of them, it'll be a miracle because generally it takes about 3 to 4 times of putting something in front of somebody before they actually react to it and pounce on it and do something with it. So as you were saying, it's an ongoing process. It is something that is, and that return on investment, the ROI that you talk about, it's not necessarily in converted sales. I mean, that is one measure, but it's a poor measure because, it's the exposure of the brand over and over is worth a lot more. When you're just looking at what you convert, you have to really hard sell something to make that happen. It's why I don't do a lot of the affiliate link stuff. Trying to drive, because people get turned off by that stuff, trying to drive people to this link and to click on this so that you can get paid a percentage. As you were saying earlier, you're much better putting a product in front of somebody over and over and over and seeing it work over and over and over. They will end up buying it eventually. That is how it works. And sadly, I'm going to be honest with you, even you're that way. Even you are probably bad about doing that. You are probably bad about marketing in the catfish community to the people in social media that reach a lot of people that ain't over here in the chat that listen to you regularly. That's like preaching to the choir. Those people over there, they already love you. They already love Twisted Cat Outdoors. They're already like you. What you got to reach are the ones that have never heard of you. And that's where getting somebody that's outside of your little box to promote your brand is important. And that's not just you. This is everybody out there. It's anybody that has a fishing brand. And that's the thing that, again, I think Catfish Tournament, we're going to have some that are going to start to get into it and start to do it a little bit more. But it's nothing like the bass world. You look at some of the highest paid bass anglers out there. Mike Iaconelli, G-Man makes very good 6-figure money. When was the last time he won a tournament? Oh, wait, has he ever won a BASS event?
I don't know that he has.
Yeah, it's not. It's because he's bigger than that. It's just like with Iaconelli. He's way bigger than the last tournament he won. And, that's what's being overlooked. And that's why I think the tournament world is way behind, the rest of the competitive event stuff out there. That's kind of, listen, we're never, ever going to be a BASS event, FLW, anything like that. But it could be better, but you got to have advertising dollars to do it. When you do that, you got to have people watching. And, that's going to be the big hurdle to overcome. It sounds like what you're doing with that event, that's a good start. Here's what's bad. I've never seen it. I've never had it come across my timeline. And I'm pretty embedded into the catfish world. I've never had it come up in a feed or a promotion to where I could tune in and watch it on my iPhone while I'm out there fishing. So, those are the kind of hurdles that people have to overcome to, get this stuff out there. And it's not going to be easy, dude. I don't know if we've got the people to do it. That's the sad part. I mean, I think it's going to be chipping away at it. But yeah, those are some big things to overcome.
You have right now is still the opportunity for people to grow their brands. And like I said, this is still an early sport where 10 years ago, Luke Nichols was the only one doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Now look at how many anglers. Spencer Bauer is a good friend of mine. He quit his job teaching. He's doing YouTube for a living. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And that's what's cool. Sky's the limit. I mean, people are looking, but again, when it comes to social media, times have changed. It's work. I mean, like G-Man says, it's every day. It's grinding. It's not about, if you go to like I said, you go out fun fishing, tournament fishing, or whatever, you don't catch a fish, it doesn't mean you just don't post. I mean, post something, give them value. Nobody wants to see something or follow you if you don't have value.
Yeah, and that's one of the bad. It's one thing. There's a lot of research into this in the whole sports world, arena world, is that when all you're doing is on there talking about winning this soccer game or winning this, gymnastics competition or basketball game, people can get turned off to it when you're trying to create an identity and a connection with people that are watching. They like seeing you lose too, because it makes you human. They like seeing the struggle. They like seeing the work behind it. So, as tournament anglers, whoever it is that's trying to build a brand out there in that social media world, they're a little more interested in you and your journey than they are in whether you won or whether you caught a big fish. Everybody likes to get up there and brag. Listen, I do it too. Everybody, they're all gung-ho when they catch a big fish, and they're posting it all over, everywhere, big personal best in the boat. But then it's crickets, it's crickets for months until they catch another fish. Okay. You don't want them promoting your brand. You don't want them trying to sell your rod or sell your boat. They only show up when they catch a fish. And that looks very braggadocious to people that are seeing it, and watching it. So you got to be kind of careful with some of that stuff, but that's a whole another ditch to go down there.
So for somebody trying to get into the social media stuff, like what I guess, give us a start of how you got to where you're at, with YouTube, becoming a guide. What was your journey to that?
Well, see, I've been around, connected to the catfish world for a long time back when they had chat rooms. Most of y'all don't even know what the heck this stuff is. Lyle Stokes, he was around back then talking in these things, and it evolved. I remember the Catfish One website, catfish1.com. There would be these places you would go in there. It was almost like a chat here, but you were making a post instead of live chatting. And I remember the guy that was running it when Facebook came out. I remember him saying Facebook will be the death of this platform. And he was right, because things started to grow online. I've always had like a YouTube presence, a bragging board is what it was. I had a channel to put videos up onto, just so you could post them onto Catfish One or other places. It was nothing but a bragging board. It was 2007, I believe, 7, 8, somewhere in there. I realized that this is actually it's a marketing platform. I was very naive, just very ignorant to the potential and what could be done with it and how it worked. I did not get it. And that heard some numbers from some people from the fishing industry and what they were making on it. And I was like, holy cow, I do television for a living. I can do that easy and make a whole lot of money really quick. And that was when the journey started. I learned very quickly. It's as we said off air, it's not easy. It doesn't happen accidentally. You don't just throw stuff up there and it happens. You can have a viral video and get 8 or 10 million views, but you will not have an accidentally good YouTube channel, Facebook platform, TikTok, or anything else. It takes work. And that's what will separate the majority of those people over there who are very good at jacking their jaws and talking junk and all that on a keyboard from doing what a lot of these people have done on these platforms. And it's a battle. It's a struggle. It's work. It's commitment. It's getting past being scared of yourself and being intimidated of being in front of a camera. I was the most shy, introverted person on earth. And when I quit giving a crap about how I sounded, what people thought of me, how I looked, it got a lot easier. Once you put that out the door and start delivering the content, people will follow, people will listen. And if you're honest, give good stuff, and are fair with everything, you'll do pretty good. So
Yeah, and that's that's something that I am trying to grow also is in the anglers is that, anytime I interview people, it's tough. I mean, it's especially these days, my last job I delivered to high schools and elementaries, and going down the high school hallway, all the kids have their head down, they're on their phone, and the communication with them is tough.
Yep.
And that's a big thing. I mean, these days to be able to talk on a mic is a big deal. And like I said, I want to grow that also in the tournament side of things, where angler comes up and I give them a mic and they talk, and it's going to be tough to be a G-man. You're not going to have a lot of G-mans.
No, you're not.
But to get out there, like I said, it's so powerful, and you get so much exposure. And now the people that have done the TikTok and the YouTube stuff, there's a lot, like we talked about in backstage, there's a lot of people making money with social media. I mean,
Absolutely. And listen, it's people think it's just, oh, you're just getting up there jacking yourselves about anything. You got to have some type of content to what you're talking about. And I challenge anybody over in there that wants to jump on and do a podcast with me. I'd be glad to have you on. I'd be glad to. I have a hard time when I went to the Catfish conference. Part of the reason for going there is to get content. I won't mention any names, but I've approached some pretty big tournament anglers and wanted to get them to come back to the studio that I've always had set up there to do a podcast, tape something with me. And they've avoided me like the plague. They've said, yeah, we'll do it. We'll get up with you. And it's like, because it's intimidating. I take that for granted that I've just overcome it and done it just like you have. You grew up in the DJ world. You just kind of have to put all that crap aside and go do the job and not worry about it. But for a lot of people, that's intimidating, dude. I don't know that I would do really good getting up in front of a crowd of real live human beings and talking. I'd get way too distracted doing that thing. Here, I can talk into a camera. It ain't no big deal. But for a lot of people, dude, I've had people break into a sweat before. And you know who you are, because I think you're listening in the chat tonight, doing a podcast or just taping an interview, because it's work. And I say all that to say, the people who are doing it, the chunky cats that are doing it out there repeatedly, busting their butt, making a living doing it. We're not talking making 25, 30 bucks a month doing this, guys. We're talking about people making a living. River certified, same way. Luke Nichols, let's not even Luke Nichols and Catfish and Carp. He's doing so good with his new one that he gave up Catfish and Carp. I mean, there are people that have committed the time and are doing it. That's what I say.
Income, right? He gave up a 6-figure income.
He gave up a well into 6-figure income. He's probably approaching 6 figures in taxes with what he was doing. I say all that to say, if you want to be a tournament angler and try to sell Sea Arc boats or multi-bar rod holders, you got to get past yourself. Get past being worried about how you sound and what you can say and can't say, and get out there and do it. And you got to promote the brands, because that's what they need. They need the exposure. They need the content. They need the presence. By the way, I got on some mossy oak. Where am I at there? I got some mossy oak, and I'm seeing that down in the crawler down there. Hey, cuz, if you're watching, hey.
Luke's on there too. So, but yeah, and like I said, it's getting your brand out there, getting and build yourself again. I run the Sea Arc Pro staff. The most recent person we're working with doing a partnership is Rob Arrington.
Who?
Rob Arrington.
I know who he is.
That's a big deal. I mean, he's you know what I mean? That's a lot of value. That's a lot of ROI. You know what I mean?
That's a lot. He has a lot of leverage. He has a lot of leverage with his presence.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the things that that brands are looking for, and it's the new
Absolutely.
world. It is, you know what I mean? But again, you know, tournament anglers, anybody, there's so many people that are trying to get in the sport, but are scared. Go out there. I mean, I did it. I'm still a nobody, but I went out there and I just grinded, and every single day, you know, doing a podcast, you know what I mean? Learning, you know, but the growth, you know, going back to the growth of the sport, you know, there's a lot to be said about that. You know, ACA gets a lot of heat. I'm an ACA fan. Glenn's done a lot for me. Glenn's done a lot, and I think tries to do a lot. But I personally know what Glenn does with the ACA. You know, I compare ACA to BASS in a way. BASS started in 1967, like we said. ACA just started. Now it's in a social media world where they can get a lot of heat, you know.
Pioneers get the arrows, settlers get the land, and Glenn's in that pioneer position. He's riding across the Wild West, and he's dealing with Indians and everybody else. And and I think he knew that. I knew that was going to happen. It was going to be an uphill struggle, but yeah, it's you know, you've got the thing is, and everybody talks about there's so much negativity in it. They're everywhere. The naysayers, the negativity, that's everywhere. One thing you'll never see is somebody that is doing better than you putting you down. It's always somebody that is wishing they were in your position that is the one that is saying stuff. And it's just like with Glenn. Has he done everything right? Heck no. He there's a lot of screw ups, but he's done what nobody else has done. You know, I said it before in podcast.
Who else? Yeah.
Who else is going to do it? I said that in a podcast last year. I said, this is our chance. If you want a national organization, this is as close as it's ever come. Everybody has talked about it. Everybody has had ideas. It's like I said in the podcast last week that led to this one that pissed so many people off. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Okay. I've got notepads of ideas. It's, you know, you've got probably tons of ideas. Exactly. It's, can you capitalize on those ideas? And listen, if it's easy, somebody's already done it, dude. The easy stuff's already been done. The hard stuff is what takes the work and the effort. And that's where, you know, Glenn, he's swinging the bat and going for it. And he's got support. He's got people in there with him. He's, you know, I mean, honestly, people think I'm crazy. I can't think of anybody better to be in that position. I think, one, he's really good at what he does with the hustle. And I think he's just ignorant enough to give it a try, because if he was really, really smart, he would have never touched it like anybody else. So I think he's probably the best one to do it. And love him or hate him, he's keeps scratching at it. And listen, most people, you know, the jaw jackers over here, okay, they would have quit a long time ago. Matter of fact, they never would have started doing it. So, you know, I give him credit for what he's doing. I hope it works out. I mean, I do. I hope it works out. It's nice to have the national support, the somebody as an organization. And listen, you know, granted, a lot of it's letter writing. It's not like they've got enough income right now to hire, you know, lobbyists and stuff to, you know, start twisting arms. But just some of the letter writing, especially to some of these smaller departments, maybe it's helped. At least it's coming from somebody instead of somebody that's sending an email with a bunch of poorly worded together grammatical errors and misspellings and lack of syntax and spelling and everything else. But
he is very good at what he does. I've seen those letters. I know personally the hours he puts in. And like I said, anybody ever needed anything in catfishing, I've seen it from people getting logos made. I mean, he'll stay up all night making a logo for a new tournament trail that just started last night. He goes out of his way. And I mean, it's, you know,
and listen, I've been a thorn.
Everybody's going to have haters.
Yeah, I've been a thorn in his side, but everything I've said has been very constructive and very deliberate and thought out, and hoping that it would be changed or fixed. And he's done it. That's the big thing. Yeah. he'll act like he don't listen to me, but I think he listens to me and like take some of this stuff to heart, or at least it gets back to him. So, but yeah, that's that's the nature of that's just the nature of life and social media. It's so easy today to, if you're going to do something, man, you just have to go in there and go do it. Stay in your lane. Don't get distracted by the naysayers. And because, man, you got people trying to shoot you down all the time. Just remember, I've never had I've never heard from somebody doing better than me. I've never heard Luke Nichols say anything to me like, oh, you're a dummy, or you're stupid, or you look goofy, or your stuff sucks. You never hear it from people that are successful. You only hear it from the failures. So that's where you just have to go. If you got some haters, you're actually reaching some people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of haters, so I guess it's like I said, it's just a different world from what we talked about. I mean, in the world is different from social media, whether it's tournaments, all that. It continues to change, and I think it's starting to clash a little bit. And I think it's winter. Not a lot of people can fish because it's ice, so we resort to social media. But I think everybody that's in the industry or probably listening to this podcast or anything I'm a part of, or hopefully what you're a part of, they want to see positivity, or gosh, I hope they do.
Well, let me just stop you with that positivity word. Okay. I hear that slung around all the time, and our negativity, I should say. Everybody wants everything. Listen,
negativity is slung around a lot.
Yeah. Oh, we don't be negative. Listen, I'm not negative. I'm just honest, and I'm not afraid to talk about things that need to be spoken about. Okay. I know the major brands would love for everything to and that's their job. Okay. If you're one of the big brands out there, you do the corporate PR written out positive thing. The rest of us, me, because I feel I can be the one who doesn't have I'm not tied into any of these people. I'm not married to them. Talk about some of this stuff. Talk about changing the sport. Talk about making boats safer. Talk about reducing the number of fish. Talk about all the things that need to be talked about and need to be brought out in an educated manner. Because sometimes what we think is the best thing to do may not be the best thing, but we're not going to know unless we talk about it. And, I've done some podcasts on some touchy subjects, and the cool thing is, whether people will admit it or not, whether they learned it from me or not, I've seen the change happen. And if that's a good thing, I'll take the heat. I don't care, man. I'll be the one to send it and make it happen. And again, sometimes, negative is just when you bash something and put somebody down, one, for no reason, and two, with no solution for the problem. If I say something about the ACA, oh, you need to do this because it'll make this better, it's not negative. That's actually a positive thing. You could perceive it as being negative, but if you turn it into something good, that's a positive thing. So, again, there is negativity. There's a whole bunch of them over here that ain't got nothing but a bunch of bad stuff to say. Let them jabber, y'all. The bottom line is they have no solution for anything. One, they probably don't have a problem. Two, they probably don't have no solution. Those you just tune out and let them go back and get another 6-pack, and they'll be fine later on, and they'll be off complaining about something else.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get a C-Arc sponsorship talking like this. I am just going to ruin this. Buy Suzuki. I have to buy another Suzuki motor instead of getting one. I'm not good at this. Y'all need.
You got to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to get some PR people to help me smooth my stuff out. I'm not good. No, that honestly, I'm not changing it. I'm just going to be honest about it and hopefully change some stuff along the way.
And that's I love constructive criticism. And like I said, we'll have that argument about 3 fish, 1 fish, 5 fish, 10 fish, whatever that is. But in my mind, what I've seen, what I do, trying to have conservation, come to these events, study fish, all that. I mean, I'm doing that because I care. I want my son that's 10 to be able to catch fish in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. When I was new, I killed a big fish right out here. I caught a 40-pound fish. I was out by myself in the dark. It was the biggest fish I'd ever caught by myself, and put it in the bottom of the boat. I had a pontoon, drove across the river, found somebody to take a picture. I mean, that fish laid in the floor. It maybe swam away, but I'm sure I killed it. You know,
You know how many 5, 6, 7 pound largemouth bass I have carried back from farm ponds I was trespassing on the fish as a kid, that just because you had to take it home and show it to your neighbors and show it to everybody down the street, and the thing was basically dehydrated and half dried out by the time you got it back to the house to cut it up to finally eat it. Yeah, been there, done that. The biggest thing
so
is, like, watching my videos, you don't know how many people have reached out, because in my videos, usually the last thing that happens when I catch a fish is back alive. It's become the cliche saying because I chunk all the fish back. And I did keep one the other day, by the way, in the video. If anybody wonders if I eat them, I kept one to eat the other day. But I chunk them back alive. And that, I get emails and messages from people all the time that are like, dude, I almost feel guilty keeping fish now. I watch you throw back thousands of fish, thousands of them. And I said, don't feel guilty keeping them. I can't keep every fish that I catch. I can't eat them all. But I say all that to say that type of impression, talking about social media having negative effects and all that, it can have a positive effect too. And you can have a positive impression on people and stuff like that. Taking the time to communicate that message about conservation, what's good and what's bad. And, again, my opinion on how many fish to keep is different than yours, but I think there's been a tightening. I think we've come closer together over the past, 15 years since I've been saying this stuff. I don't see hardly any 5 fish limits anymore. I don't know that we'll ever get to 1 because you tournament directors are too hard headed to do that, but I still love you.
hey, I don't know.
I stole biggest tournament in the country. 1 fish. Just saying. I love you, Alex. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I mean, hey, I'm doing some one-on-one stuff, but yeah, and that's like I said, you go back to conservation,
Yep.
and you take the Missouri River. There's no commercial fishing, yet they still do it. So when we want to get these regulations on the Ohio River, the James, the Mississippi, I live in Illinois. They could care less about catfish. I mean, they just don't. Right. They don't see it being even an issue to even look into. They're looking into pallet sturgeon and all these other species, carp. They care about Asian carp. They're trying to figure that out. That's a whole nother subject too. But conservation helps, but also if one area you can catch 3 fish and that's it, what's the law when they take fish from Tennessee to Ohio and it's a $25 fine? How's that going to stop them, even though it's a law?
And that's where, go back to the ACA, I think we need a national organization. I think we need a national organization to try to get some type of cohesiveness in some of this stuff. Now, but let me say this, though, and this will upset some people. There's a lot of places you just might as well leave catfish alone. There ain't nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with the population. There's nothing wrong with the fish getting taken out and sold to play ponds. You're not damaging the population of fish because there are so many. As a matter of fact, there may be too many of them in a lot of places. But, and again, some people said this about the Ohio, and I'm totally ignorant as to any of the research that's been done out there. But they talk about parts of the Ohio that have been raped as far as taking fish out, selling them to pay lakes and stuff like that. There are places, I'm sure, where that has happened and is happening. But, as far as, getting something in place, it's going to take some type of national organization, cohesiveness, federal level stuff. And it might be good to get educated on that to see if we actually need that or if we actually want that. Just what may be tied into that. That gets kind of really complicated. Personally, me, if I could wave my little magic Sharpie and make a law, the fish you catch in the state can't be transported across state lines, almost like a Lacey Act type deal, which is a federal thing that is applied to game fish, game animals. That I if nothing else, I wish it was that way nationwide, to where what's in your, and some states have that. Some states have laws you can't transport the fish out or you can't bring fish in from other states. I wish that was nationwide. At least that way, the state could control their problem within their borders, or I say problem, could control their fish within their borders. And, your resources aren't going to support somebody across the river or 2 or 3 states away. But, for us on the East Coast with the blue cats, we're kind of in a tough position because them blue cats are visitors. They're not from here. They're not native to anybody on this side of the mountain. And like the stuff on the James, it's going to be tough. The good thing up there is there's so many of them, they can never get rid of them. The deal is going to be finding a compromise somewhere in the middle, but that gets really super duper complicated on what you can do there law wise and stuff.
But again, without an organization like the ACA, or how, I mean, as the sport gets bigger and more outside eyes get on it, how do you stop them taking? Because that's all I hear is they're down in Cape Girardeau and they're running hoop nets and they're taking tons and tons of live fish to Ohio. But again, if there's a law that they can't do that and it's a slap on the hand, they're not going to stop doing that.
Yep. I don't know that you can. If the laws are in place, they're not being enforced. Either A, they don't know about it. It's one of a couple of things. One, it could be just conjecture and it's not really happening. I mean, is there proof it's happening? I don't know. Sometimes these stories get drawn out. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying that could be one of the things. The other could be they don't know it's happening. They just, let's face it. If something's going on illegal in my lake down here, we've got 2 officers that work this county, and they could really probably care less about going enforcing catfish laws when they can do a lot easier jobs, a lot easier stuff, especially in the summertime. Safety inspections on boats that are loaded with bikinis is a lot more fun than staking out a boat ramp at 3 o'clock in the morning to see if somebody's pulling illegal fish out of a lake. That's probably the biggest thing. Again, having an organization like an ACA that might have some leverage, some power, that's, as much as people don't like politics, that's where having some political leverage can come in. Because if you have some political connections to the higher up people in the states, in the state government, they can put a little effort or try to get a little effort out of the law enforcement people that are over to enforce some of these laws. So, that may be a solution down the road. As far as what's going on now, outside of slashing their tires and cutting their hoop nets apart, there's not really a lot you can do except, grassroots level, get some stuff in place, try to get some laws in place. But again, dude, you got to be careful doing that. We've seen that happen with some of these people that, when you approach these organizations, these government entities, the ACA knows this, this, you've got to approach them as a businessman. And from a, in a professional business point of view, you can't go in there name calling and cussing and screaming and all that kind of stuff. One, you got to have some science behind you. Science is the biggest thing. If there's no science back in your argument, you're kind of screwed. I mean, it would be like trying to, this podcast I have out Wednesday, it would be like Christian Moore trying to go in there to Virginia and go, oh, we want to protect the blue cats because we like to fish for them. Nobody cares whether you like to fish for them or not. Nobody cares whether or not you're going to catch a big catfish or whether you're going to have a big tournament or all that. What they care about is the science. That's what all the biologists are going to go back to. So you got to have science on your side. And again, this is where you start getting into the dog chasing his tail. It's hard to get the science without the research. It's hard to get the research. One, without concern. You got to have a concern first. And 2, you got to have some money 9 times out of 10 to do that. Again, if we had a Trout Unlimited or Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation level organization, if the ACA ever got to that, we'd have money. We'd have banquets to where they would raise tens of thousands of dollars that would go to research, conservation, all that kind of stuff. But, until we get to that point, we're kind of left to struggle and kick and fight. There's also going to be an argument made to this too. I'll let you talk. I feel like I've talked too much.
I mean, I agree with that, but I'm trying to, the comments are flying. I just seen something about somebody wearing bikinis on a boat will draw the officers in, but I really believe that, I know you would disagree. I think that the sport is growing rapidly for multiple reasons. social media, tournaments are growing, everything. But in my eyes, and I'm not saying social media people don't do it, but I think there's more. My goal is it when I go to a tournament and we're trying to draw those spectators, that's getting the big eyes, more eyes seeing these events. And I got a father and son that come to the Alton Classic from Chicago. It's a couple-hour drive every year just to watch it, and they love it. Now they're going on a guided trip. So it's getting those eyes, and they care. And the more people you get in, the mayors of the cities, the politicians. I mean, I have personally seen a lot of growth in the spectators, but I'm also pushing that, and I think other people are pushing that. The anglers are growing, and we'll get more anglers as the sport grows. But my goal is to grow a lot of that spectators and get more people, the eyes on it. Does it need to be on TV? I don't know. Will it be on TV? Is TV important?
No, forget that. Forget that. Get that out of your head. I like the fact, I'm going to get to the TV thing. I'm making a note here. I love the fact you're doing what you're doing by bringing crowds in. I've not been exposed to it.
I know. I'm not saying it needs to be on TV, but is that help?
No. TV's the last thing you want to waste money and stuff on. And I've told this to so many people. It's such an antiquated way of thinking. It's like a 5-fish limit in a catfish tournament. It's antiquated. It's an antiquated way of thinking. Look at Chris Souders. Love Chris Souders to death. He had that fishing. So Sea Ark was a sponsor of it. It was on some channel, outdoor channel or something. I don't know where it was at. What was it? Pursuit Channel.
Channel.
Where's that at? I mean, I don't know where that's. You have to go download something to stream it to get it. We're in a world, dude, where the TV thing don't work. It sounds good to ignorant sponsors and people out there that go, "Oh, it's on TV. Great, got a TV show." Nobody watches it. The only place I got to see anything was when I found it on YouTube when it finally resurfaced back up there. TV's dead and gone when it comes to the sports world. You got to be streaming that stuff. I'd love to see your stuff streamed, man. I think you could make something. It sounds like you're on a good direction with what you're doing. I think that's awesome. Making a spectacle out of it, making a show out of it.
I do a lot more streaming. I'm learning that now. I mean, now I've got a DSLR that I'm working with here. I mean, my goal is just like what we do. We got, Brian. Like I said, the one-on-one thing, I know that's been going on YouTube for a long time. Kevin Palmetto, which I love Kevin. He's done streaming for me for my tournaments. But that is that key. Like, when me and Brian went one-on-one, that is tough. You talk about being in front of a camera and then you're getting your butt kicked. There's some of you that were giving me crap, telling me I'm going to go back to the boat ramp. You got to be all in. That's a whole different animal. But getting that out there is what my goal is. The live on the water during the tournaments. It's not just it's to get those eyes, to get the CVBs, the cities that want to bring that event there and get people out there fishing. And that kind of grows everything. But live is a lot of work. I mean, the products to get it live. I love the one-on-one thing. I don't know the future of that. I mean, we've done. Me and Brian, we went to Louisiana, and then Brian and Mike Mitchell. That was a lot of fun. Was there a lot of viewership? I mean, it wasn't crazy, but it's brand new. It's something new. Our platforms aren't built for a crazy following yet. As I think we grow it, it will be. And like I said, what Kevin's doing is awesome. If Kevin, are you on here?
He was in there a minute ago. I saw him in the chat somewhere. Yeah. No, Kevin's he's been a guy that really took the live studio streaming stuff to another level in the catfish world. He was one that, Catfish Weekly's been around for a long time. They've been doing their thing. Kevin kind of ratcheted it up another level with what he was doing, and it went outside of there. He's doing stuff from the Catfish Conference and all that. And that's the kind of stuff we need, is somebody raising the bar a little bit more with a little something else in what you're doing. I said something in that podcast that got people upset the other day, and I think I worded it incorrectly. As hard as that is to believe that I would word something incorrectly, I did. And it wasn't that the 1v1 stuff and the online tournaments were not being done. It's just I haven't seen anybody at a big national level trying to do that. And I think there's a place there. The one thing, though, with like the 1v1 stuff, and I've started using that term. I didn't know what it was before last week.
Well, hold on. Now, you know where that term comes from?
The gaming world, the online gaming stuff. yeah. What's that?
My son. I mean, that's everything he talks
Yeah.
about because he's a big Fortnite kid,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
like, Dad,
See,
we got a 1v1.
I'm feeling
And
I'm
like,
feeling all hip and cool now that I got like a cool term to use. Yeah. But the 1v1 thing that is missing, and again, this is the catfish tournament people to blame. There's no personalities in the catfish world. There's nobody that anybody knows who the heck they are. I get people on my guide boat all the time. We're held hostage with each other for 6 hours. We talk about everything. One of the questions I always ask them: who's your favorite catfish tournament angler? They look at me like I got 12 heads, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know anybody." It's like, nobody? You don't know, like, even like one of the old time like greats, like Bill King or somebody? Who? It's like there's no personality. There's no Mike Iaconelli. I said this in my podcast. There's nobody that is somebody you will see go head to head from the tournament world. Now, get two YouTubers, you get me and Catfish Dave going head to head. You can probably do a pay-per-view to sell tickets to go watch that happen. And that's kind of, it's not so much that we're great fishermen. We're not great tournament fishermen. There's much better tournament fishing. Larry Muse and the Fountains can kick our butts all over the place, but it's a personality. It's somebody that
100%. But in my belief, and I mean that's me putting the work in, is I want to help with this podcast and everything I'm doing. I want to help build those people. I want to help build, you take Tyler Barnes. I don't know Tyler very well. I see what he does. He's in a different world. He's not really he's in the tournament world, I guess, over the mountains, as you would say. But if Tyler Barnes came and fished the Twisted Cat Trail with his presence in social media and him having his own podcast and doing all this stuff, he's going to be huge. And as we've got a lot of great tournament anglers that they are getting better on social media. And I think, like I said, I in 3 years, it's going to be a different world in catfishing.
Yeah. Listen, like it or not, people can hate YouTubers and in the social media world. Okay. They're getting the
Hold on. I'm kind of a YouTuber.
Well, you are a YouTuber. So yeah, that's why
I
you
have
can't
500 and hold on. So I got a bet with my son, which I'm going to lose. I didn't realize how hard it is to get followers on YouTube. If you're not following Twisted Cat, don't do it because you hate me or like me, but do it for my son. I promise him I'm going to do everything I can to get 1,000 subscribers.
Subscribe, dude, people. Hit the subscribe button down there. Hit the subscribe button. It's tough. It's a battle.
My 10-year-old every day checks. He says, Dad, how many you got? And I said, 519. He's like, 519. I'm like, yeah, like we're moving up slowly, but it's crazy. And then I look at guys like you or Bauer, and I don't even like to bring Luke Nichols up because it's embarrassing, but you guys got a lot. I mean, it's and that goes back to, am I a great social media dude?
Right.
I do the best I can. Do I do it right? I don't know. I'm looking for those people with the brands that I work for, and I'm going after the Rob Arrington, 3.5 million subscribers.
Yeah.
I've got 523. You know what I mean? But
I'm
learning that game, and I'm learning to, hey, I got to post every week. I learned that from Spencer. He posts twice a week, and it's a grind. And I'm going to do everything I can, try to give value. And I go back to YouTube, like we talk, and people want to build their YouTube channel. My best YouTube channel, I'm paying thousands of dollars for some of the content that you see. If I have a video of an event, Liz says every single day that Rhett's asking, but my best video is how to winterize your washdown pump. And the only reason and what I learned and why I've changed a lot of things I do is because it gives people value.
You delivered
my second biggest video is I had some old TWC rods, and I got the rod sleeves and heat shrunk rod sleeves. My second biggest one. 2 videos. It cost me nothing. Are my highest videos. The ones I paid thousands for, I can't get people to watch them. So go out there and give people value, and that'll blow your brand up. Tyler Barnes, giving people value.
Yep. You've got to do one or two things. It's the 2 E's. It's the same in a lot of businesses. And it's just, you either got to entertain or you got to educate. And you can entertain. You like Tyler. I mean, he get a little education with him, but he's entertaining. He's young. He's got the best smiling catfishing. He's great talking with it. I need to do my Tyler Barnes hand talk because he talks better with his hands. He's great with that. He's got a great camera presence, and he's not scared to get out there and jack his jaws. He does a great job doing that. Otherwise, you got to educate. You got to educate on some level. It can be how to, I mean, one of my biggest, I got several ones that are not tying videos. Boring. It is like watching paint dry. Everybody thinks you got to go out and catch big fish. And let me tell you something. Y'all keep making YouTube channels around catching big fish and trying to make that the focal point of your channel. I wish you luck. If you make that work, good luck. Because to a certain extent, people don't care. They're interested in it. It's great when it happens. It's a great little, it's a side note, but you got to give them something more than a big fish. That's it. There's more to it than that. And you're right. It's a grind. You got to figure. It's just like the stuff you're saying you spent thousands of dollars to do. You spent a good amount of money to create great content. You just you just had a bad story in what you created. I think you had the potential, probably with what you shot, to tell a tremendous story and have something that would resonate and have some bite to it. It's just sometimes you take all those pieces and you put them together and you got the puzzle pieces connected, but they're not in the right way. They're kind of in there.
No, like, and I've learned to cut and edit and do things and make reels, and reels are popular, but I'm 38 now. Not that I don't think I'm too old.
Poor thing. You need to go to bed. It's getting late.
But it's Palmetto. There's just getting that exposure, getting your brands out there. And again, that's why I think you're seeing that switch as myself going after the deer meat for dinner.
Oh yeah.
That's huge value. That's huge ROI for Sea Arc boats.
Yeah.
For rib and lip, you know what I mean? So I think I'm starting to see that transition as tournament anglers are becoming, like Tyler Barnes now. Like I said, I keep bringing up Tyler. So Tyler, you might have to send me one of your sweatshirts, whatever. But Tyler's a great kid. He's probably pretty young. I don't know how old he is. Oh no, he's got something. So Tyler, if you're watching,
remember at the beginning, I said we had room for the rods here in the thing. We've also got room for four-reel fishing. This is Tyler's brand, and I only bring this in here not as a plug for him. I'm not paid. I'm not an ambassador or anything, but he's created a brand. And why isn't there a catfish tournament angler? He does fish tournaments, but why are not one of these big nationwide trail guys doing something like that? That's what you got to do. He's created a brand that is something going to be bigger than anything he's ever going to do in tournament fishing. That's the way you got to think. That's what people don't totally get about the fishing industry and the outdoor industry. It's more than just going and fishing some tournaments and winning some tournaments. And listen, for a lot of people, and let's just clear something up here. If that's all you want to do and you just want bragging rights and you just want to win and do good, and that's where you place your value and all of it, that's fine, dude. Go do it. Have fun doing it. That's awesome. But I think that the people we're speaking to are the ones who are trying to build the sport, make it bigger, do something bigger with them, get more money in the tournament world, become a professional catfish tournament angler. That's what you got to do. You got to be a marketing agency more than a fisherman.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm going to play this clip here in a minute, but it's what you're doing behind closed. It's an everyday thing, getting content. And that's what I've lacked on. And it's not easy. Like I said, I know Tyler puts a lot of effort in, a lot of these guys. I know Spencer, just because I know Spencer. I know I bring Spencer up a lot, but I mean, I couldn't imagine doing 2 YouTube videos a week. I don't know how many you do, but that's a lot. And then now with it changing, with reels and all that stuff, and it just takes a lot of time. But
I do a video every Sunday, a podcast on Wednesday, and at least one short every day of the week.
Yeah, that's a lot. But again, for the people watching, there's a lot of great anglers. You take Rob Benningfield, probably one of the best anglers in the country, in my opinion. Now, when I say best anglers, that means that he can go from the East Coast to the West Coast, and if I had money, I would put it on him. Justin Clare, another guy. These guys, I don't know that you've ever heard of Rob Benningfield or Justin Clare. Those guys are studs. They can go to a body of water, figure it out, catch fish. Will they ever be big in the industry? I don't know. I mean, they're big for the people that know them, but
and
I
that may
couldn't
be
imagine.
all they want. That may
That's 100%.
and don't think that your success or failure as a tournament angler is dependent on having 100,000 subscribers on you. It's not. It's not. You can go fish tournaments, have a good time doing it, and go back to your job during the week and show up a month later and fish another tournament. And dude, if that is happiness and the life you want, then you are successful in doing what you need. We're just talking about a different direction with all of it, possibly a different direction. And that's, it's there's a lot of avenues, man. There's so many avenues and directions you can go in the industry, in the tournament world. Just fishing. I mean, I would venture a guess most of the people in this chat are probably not going to fish a tournament. I don't know. I've seen a few names in there. Some of them will, some of them won't, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's not just tournaments, it's from events. I mean, I don't even like to call them tournaments, but you take like Fishing for Freedom. I've been a part of that now for, I think, 10 years. One of my best friends is the president. And that is an event that over 200 boats from across the country and 300 warriors that, were in the service. I mean, that is that's awesome to be a part of. And then again, it's not about catching fish. It's just about getting out there. And that's what it's about. And like I said, most people that don't want to become somebody, Nooner Hall's on there. Nooner could be the G-man of catfishing if I can get him on a mic, and I'm going to work on that this year. But Quincy does a great job. So that's but there's a lot of events. And back to the events growing. I mean, you take Catfish Conference. I've been there every single year. Love it or hate CatCon, or now it's Catfish and Crappie Conference. The first year I was there, I was in the mechanics room. So I guess Steve Douglas did not like me too much. I was under where they raised, I think it was actually, must have been a car dealership at the time. But I had a little 10x10 booth with Twisted Cat, and I had to put some paper towel down because there's a bunch of oil spills there. That was my booth. I don't know what year CatCon's on now.
It was a boat dealership, wasn't it? Wasn't it they had a boat dealership or something? Yeah.
And to look at what it's from there to now, and then the brands just in the sport. I mean, I'm wearing a multi-bar hat. He built that across the river in Iowa. He quit his job. This is his brand. He's got people working for him, mainly Catfish. You know what I mean? There's a lot of brands getting into the sport, not just Catfish. But what's your thoughts, I guess, on some of that? I mean, have you seen some growth? I mean, you've talked. Obviously, I own a rod company. There's a lot of rod companies out there, clothing companies. This is actually Catfish made this shirt somewhere. Matt Miles, I think did you design this?
He was the original creator of that logo and that entire brand and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Pyra's got a company. There's a lot of people that are working their butts off to be in the industry. And like I said, it's a lot of work. There he is. He said, yes, sir. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on the brands? I mean,
the biggest thing is the rod world. I wish the rod world would diversify a little bit. Everybody's rod. I say everybody, and I'm lumping all y'all into a pile. So many of them look so much the same. Yours, I will say, I'm going to give you a shameless plug here. Yours, money-wise, price point, pretty dang good rod. I don't know if you ever saw the video I did on this, comparing it to some other rods. Very good price point on the rod. It is different than the other ones. A lot of the other ones, there's that whole lot of them that look like they're, and yours may be too. I don't know. It's like they're all built off the same blank. I don't think yours is. Yours is different in the action of it, but it's like there's not every one of them 7'6". I want a 6'6" rod so bad. I want an ugly stick type tiger rod type rod for fishing off a boat. I don't need a rod that big. It would be nice to have a little diversity in some of that stuff. That's one of my
but the point of what I'm saying is you have options now, more options than you did 10 years ago.
Here's what you got. You got color options is what you got. You got color and identity options. But I mean, to a certain extent, that's, Yeah, I don't.
I'm not. Hey,
I'm
I don't
I
disagree with that. I mean, you've got you do got colors. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I came out colors. Actually, there's
yeah,
some ripping lips back there. There's green and yellow and all these other colors,
yeah.
but the
I just
industry's
wish there was
changed.
some
Like I said,
diversity in
it's
some of the sizes and stuff that we had in rods. I mean, that would be the thing is with reels. There's really not been all these reels are basically rebandaged or rebranded, repackaged. You know, the Ming Yang type stuff, Sugi Lang or whatever that comes out of China. It would be nice to see somebody come up with something a little more unique and specialized, maybe even it costs a little bit more, but I understand the cost in doing that. I've actually got a podcast coming out in February where I went to a company that makes reels, Siegler reels down in Eastern Virginia, 100% US made fishing reels. They cost a lot of money. It's hard to do that. I get that. But there is some cool stuff that's come out. Multi-bar. I've got that on my Lund boat. Uh, those things are pretty stout. You have to be careful to not want to tie an anchor rope around it and use it as a cleat because they are very, very tough. That's, in my opinion, I think something that was kind of a unique design option that came in with, you know, there's a lot of, again, there's a lot of repackaged Chinese stuff. I wish we got some more stuff that was a little more unique. The Dragon Master stuff, I saw that at ICAST this year. That was something that was different. Some of their stuff they're doing with some of those non-snag little whisker biscuit looking things that they got and some of the
yeah,
Dragon
no,
weight.
I mean, Brian's got a lot of cool things out, you know, with Dragon Master, and you know, he
Yeah.
used to be the big into tournaments and have successful
Yep.
events, and now he's put a lot of his eggs. He kicked cancer's butt. Now he's got a lot of his eggs in
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Master. He's doing a lot of things with it and a lot of unique products.
Yep.
And I've been to ICAST now for 2 years. And it's crazy because now you start seeing some catfish brands. Akuma, what was there was a hook company. I think Mustad maybe has a catfishing rod come out. So now I'm seeing some catfish products at ICAST that you didn't see before, which is kind
Now,
of
what's
interesting.
interesting about ICAST, it's for people that don't know, it's the biggest fishing show in the world. I mean, it's massive. You will get tired if you walk every aisle in the thing. I think there were only, just shows you how small the catfish world is. It's big, but it's not. Uh, which speaks to the potential for growth, I guess. But there was only like 2 specific brands, if I remember right. Catfish Pro, they were there. They had rods and their bait and that kind of stuff. And Dragon Master, that was totally catfish dedicated booth at the show. And that just shows you that, yep, there's a lot of up in potential, but there's also, I think, a lot of stuff covered by these other brands as far as reels. You know, you can go buy an ugly stick and fish with it. It catches everything. So there's some crossover there, but I think it's hard to come up with new products in the catfish world because one, it's so easy to knock stuff off. There's so much
Well,
DIY.
I think after COVID too was you know what I mean.
Yeah.
People learn the China game, but again, it's I don't know. I mean, there's still new products coming out. I think you know from what I've done with Twisted Cat or seen, and going to ICAST, like now working with Power Pole is starting to see catfishing.
Yeah.
You know, Mossy Oak, Pro Guide batteries. You know, they built the 150 for catfish and bow hunters because on the big rivers they need the 150s. So you're starting to see those major brands. I've seen at the Wally Marshall Crappie Expo in Alabama, Akuma. Talk to the rep there. I don't. The only Akuma I use is the Komodo for bumping. But what's the reel that everybody loves? The cold water. Did they take that off the market or something? He literally said that they're going to bring. I don't even know how I should say this, but they're looking to bring that back because they had so much response in those reels, which is interesting.
Interesting. Interesting. It will it'll be interesting to see how the catfish conference is this year as far as it sounds like they're packed. It sounds like they're full. It sounds like it's going to be loaded with people. I think adding crappie to the mix or crappie. Do y'all say crappie or crappie where you're at?
I say crappie, but I've got some crappie pro staff that make fun of me, so I don't know what it's supposed to be. But
It's
you
one of
know,
those things. It's not like southern northern. It can be You go from North Carolina to Alabama, and I think they say crappie there. It's kind of hard to figure out. But anyway, I say all that to say I have not been. I didn't get to go last year, and I probably won't get to go this year because of some production stuff we've got going on. But adding the whole crappie side to it is pretty cool.
So back to, you're starting to see some iCast. 2 companies, Dragon Master, which to get an iCast, to spend that money to go there, you're serious.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're not just dabbling in it. Yep.
That's where, in my eyes, I don't see that the sport, when I say sport, I'm not just talking about tournaments. I'm talking about catfish. Mm-hmm. I have not seen any plateau, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, time will tell. What is the benchmark? How can we measure that though? What is there any measure to that? I mean, are you seeing just parabolic growth in your sales, or what is it perception?
I mean, I'm saying a lot of this. I'm saying the brands that have got into the sport that are doing well, that 10 years ago, gosh, now I keep saying 10, it's probably 12 years ago when I got into the sport. There wasn't a lot of options. Now you have multiple rod holders, multiple rods, multiple hooks, people making a living in catfish specific deals. You know what I mean? And it's growing again. You know, there's a lot of things to be concerned about. I mean, conservation's one, but what about bait? That's a whole topic. I got one guy that runs my trail that uses chicken, and I called a bluff on that for a year until he proved it to me.
He didn't win anything. He didn't win any tournaments though with chicken.
No, but he did very well. And he's caught bigger fish than probably most people on this podcast.
Nah, he's lying to you. He's lying to you. He didn't really do it. He's using something else. He's using skipjack.
But he's using chicken, and I think that's crazy.
Chicken. Who uses chicken? Come on. Who uses chicken? People fish with chicken for catfish?
Let me ask you this. How are you measuring it? What are you seeing to say that there's a plateau?
I'll be honest with you. Mine is totally gut feeling. Mine is just gut perception. I think some of the that rapid growth you're talking about, I think there was, we were in a pretty good run going into COVID. We just money wise, economically, we were in a pretty good run. And then everything happened with COVID, and it's like I said, we had those government stipends handed out. That seemed to help. People had more time to go fishing. People were buying campers, 4-wheelers, all that kind of stuff. I think there was some dynamics going on there that I think there was a lot of rapid growth coming into that and into 2021. But I think it's gotten easier to get into the game. Dude, for, $12,000, I can have the Dieter Melhorn fishing rod. I can buy enough of them that, I can get I forget how many it was. I get people that approach me all the time about doing it. Same thing with reels, the reel company that I think that Mad Cats is using and some other people have used. You can buy those reels for, whatever they sell them for, and they'll paint them up and put anything you want on them. And it's easier to get into the game now than I think it was 10 years ago. 15 years
ago. But you got major brands getting involved. I mean, you got, just like Glenn said, in 2016, there were 8.3 million catfish anglers. I don't know where that research comes from. And now it's over 11 million, and big industries taking notice. Look at Whisker Seeker, bought out by Pradco. That's a big company that took notice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
I see that continuing. I mean, I see some of these companies that got in and had some mergers. Some people don't know about some of the mergers, but there's definitely some movement, and it's growing. He said U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So, I mean, like I said, I know, like in Texas, I talked to Ferguson today, and I think he said behind largemouth bass, it's catfish.
But
it's definitely definitely going. And I'm not saying it's going to be bass. I'm not saying it's going to be bass, but on the other side, 1967 is when BASF started.
Right.
That's a long time ago. They've been building it and building it and building it and building it.
Yeah.
And it's a different world that we're in.
I think the Catfish Conference may be a good barometer for exactly where if you kind of look at it, and its kind of growth, that may be a good barometer because like I said, I don't know what a real one is. I don't think anybody's going to disclose their sales that we can track and look at. But I think the attendance there, how many people are there, how many. I mean, we've seen that rapidly grow even from the first years that I went. It was in a a couple of meeting rooms that they had in a hotel, and now it's at least into a a convention center. It's not taking up the whole thing by any means, but it's a big footprint. It's a big space. So it has grown there. Is it going to be jam packed to the walls to where they have to expand out of that this year? If so, that may be a good barometer. We may have to figure out a way to see where that's at. I just don't think it's as explosive as it was. And maybe I've just settled in or something. I don't think it's exploding. I think it's still growing, but I mean, heck, our population's growing and everything else. So, but again, back to the beginning of this podcast, who does that help? It helps your company. It helps Multi-Bar. It helps Sea Art because they're selling stuff. Does it help us as anglers? I don't know. Do I want more people out there trying to catch fish and tying up the boat ramps and all that kind of stuff? Selfishly, no, I don't. I'd rather have the whole place to myself to where I can just go out there and drop the boat in any time and go fishing and have a bunch of fish that have never seen a Santee rig go swinging by them before and a piece of meat hanging off it and they'll eat it. So, but I don't know if we absolutely need to grow. I think the industry, and when I say industry, I mean the people who are making money off of it. And that would be me. I'm making money, full disclosure. I'm making money off of the catfish world. I think it's good for them. I think it would be good for me. I mean, more people interested. I run more guide trips, more people watch my videos. People pay more for brand placement. I mean, yeah, there's more money. And is it good for the sport? I don't know. That's one of those things I've said from the beginning. TMP is our biggest problem when it comes to anything outdoors, whether that be hunting, fishing, water quality. TMP, too many people, and we get more and more people. We ain't getting any more woods. They're getting smaller. We ain't getting no more rivers. We got a finite amount of them. They just ain't going to magically appear. The odds of getting a new lake built in today's modern world is virtually nil. So, that those resources are limited. We're just getting more and more people put into them and focused on them. So that's why it's it's somewhat of a paradox. It's tough because you want people to enjoy it. You want people to enjoy what you enjoy, but you also selfishly want to enjoy it by yourself in the peace and quiet without getting run over by a bunch of boats. So I don't know.
I mean, how many different bodies of water do you fish? Do you have one lake that you concentrate, that you guide on?
Yes. I've got one that's literally, I'm 12 minutes from the boat ramp. That's the easy one. Most of what I fish is on the Catawba chain. It's going to be Lake Norman, Mountain Island, Wateree, Wiley, all the way down in the Santee, which I don't frequent Santee a lot, but that's the main areas that I fish. We are right next to a metropolitan area, Charlotte, North Carolina. I think it's market 17, 18, something like that in the country. It's a great place to have a guide business. We've got a infinite number of people that honestly I don't even market to try to draw work from because I've got all I can do off of YouTube. And that's a lot of people on the lakes, especially when summertime rolls around. I don't know how it is where you're at, but I'm pretty sure anywhere in the country that's halfway close to anywhere that's got a city and it's got a decent boat ramp, it's going to be bad. And it's gotten worse. I mean, it has gotten worse. We've got, now granted, we're in an area that's got an influx of people. So it's gotten worse and worse and worse. But you hear that everywhere. We're not unique. We're nothing different here. That's happening everywhere across the country. Glenn, who's down there in Florida, they got overrun with people, a long time ago. And it's just happening everywhere. And, I don't, like I said in the beginning, I don't know that we need to push to grow anything. If it's going to grow and it just accidentally happens, it happens. I think the sport is doing just fine without any of our incentives. I think if we're smart, we will figure out a way to use some of our leverage in whatever we do, whether it be YouTube as a tournament director, as a Sea Arca boat brand and doing what we can to conserve the resources, protect the resources, and do that kind of stuff, because that's where the problems are going to be. If the fish are gone and people ain't fishing, that ain't good for nobody whose name is on this screen right now. So I think that's probably what we need to be thinking about more than trying to get more people involved in the sport. I think that's going to happen just because.
So what about bait? I mean, is bait going to be a conservation issue with skipjack, shad? I mean, do you see that? Do you see people
Well,
using
apparently
artificial?
you've let us in on a secret that chicken is a good bait. I'm gonna have to try that one. It may be a big demand on the chicken farms out there, that chickens may be actually the endangered species if we start using chicken all the time. In all seriousness, here's the thing with skipjack. I hear two different things on that. Okay, one, yeah, they get fish, they get a lot of pressure put on them. It's again, internet become more and more popular. All of a sudden, everybody knew 15 years ago that skipjack's the greatest bait in the world. We can go to all the steam plants. Steam plants are running. When that information started getting out there, they got pounded. There's also a lot of stuff I'm hearing from people out there, which I did a video with a guy out there, Melton Hill Bill. He's a striper guide out there on the Tennessee River, and he said a lot of it may have to do with some of the vegetation and the grasses that are not as existent as they used to be, whether that be from water quality, climate change, spraying the lakes to get rid of the grass because people don't want grass growing on their beaches, on the houses, on the lakes. That may be as big a problem as how many of them we take out there. So yeah, if you can't get, here's the thing, if you start having problems where there's not bait to catch the fish with, guess what? There's not bait for the fish to eat, which is going to have a just, snowball effect and, could impact the fishery at some point. Here we're not seeing that. We have some very nicely polluted rivers with the right kind of pollution in them that apparently grows a whole lot of gizzard shad and threadfin, and everybody's feeding and doing good. But I think skipjack may be a little more fragile and just where they're spawning and that kind of stuff. Now, again, that's on y'all side of the mountain. I don't know that world. I catch skipjack when I'm over there, but I hear that from a lot of places how hard it is to catch them. And then you hear some people that are catching them, like crazy. But yeah, they're definitely, the general consensus is that does seem to be an issue. And yeah, can you change that? I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, no, the guy does use chicken. Kirk Lucky, I'm sure he's watching, and he does well. He does use some skipjack, but he's done really good catching big fish with chicken. I think his
I
big
don't know.
one's
If you
over
read online, people tell you people that fish with chicken just catch little fish. So he probably might be pulling your leg a little bit there.
What is your biggest fish?
71, 72, something like that. Caught it down on Santee Cooper. God, I think that's been 5 years ago now. Yeah, got 163 back in December this year on Wiley. That was now we get usually in December. That's usually the time I pluck off a decent one. That was the biggest fish of the year. We had some on the guide trips that were, I think 40, we had like that 49, 48, 47, 46, 47 kind of range there on a bunch of them. Nobody broke 50 pounds on a guide trip this year, but that's kind of, you're getting upper end in our lake when you get there. We're not a Mississippi River, James River kind of fishery here when it comes to those kind of fish.
So are you going to do any traveling, or are you just kind of over it? You like where you're at? You're going to come to the Mississippi?
Here's the thing. What's that?
Why don't you come to the Mississippi and give it a shot just one time?
Oh, here's the thing. I would be stupid to go do it without fishing with somebody, because that is a totally different ball game out there that I'm totally ignorant of. The only thing is about the Mississippi I know is it flows from north to south. It gets really big and it goes really fast and there's catfish in it. How you fish that world is something I think, and I've seen guys from out here that go out there and try to do it, and they have limited success with it. I think if you're going to go out there, you need to get fishing with a guide to figure out how to play the game. At least it would be an investment of a lot of time is the biggest thing that would keep me from doing it. Here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to come out there and film something. I think filming something would be really cool just to see how the stuff's done. So I'm not all wrapped up in trying to do it. I would rather see it and tell the story if you can find somebody that's willing to, give up their secrets or whatever. But yeah, as far as the traveling to go fish, there's, I've got the James River within 5 hours, and I drove right past it the other day to go striper fishing in Chesapeake Bay. I've got the home to the largest blue catfish that's ever been caught, and the largest blue catfish that's ever been caught in a fishing tournament. It's 4 hours up the road in Kerr Lake. Santee Cooper's 3.5 hours down the road. There's really not a reason to go anywhere else unless you just want to get, like humbled and get your teeth beat in. Those I can go to fairly quickly and fish them because they are reservoirs. I'm a reservoir fisherman. That's where I fish at. Our river fishing here is not big river fishing. It's not constant flow rivers. It's dam releases that fish totally different than a constant flowing river. You approach it totally different. And it would basically, if I came out there, I'd just get my teeth beat in and come back frustrated and hate the Mississippi and wish that they'd put a dam on it. So that's why we'd go out there. But if you ever want to take me fishing, I'd love to jump on a Sea Ark and go film some stuff out there and show me how the game's played. I think it would be cool to see.
Yeah, I'd like to see you on a Sea Ark, so we'll make that happen for sure. A Sea Ark and a Suzuki.
I love Suzuki. They're best motors in the world. I've got a Honda on the Lund, though. The Lund's got a Honda on it. It's what came on it. And I'm going to say this. I love Suzukis. I've owned 3 of them. The Honda is quieter than the Suzuki, if you can believe that. Yeah, Suzuki, you turn it on and you think it's your bait well running. The dang Honda is quieter than that is. The problem is, if you think it's hard to get a Suzuki worked on because nobody wants to be a dealer for them because they don't break and they last forever, nobody wants to work on them. You can find Mercury dealers. They're around every corner. We got as many Mercury dealers as we do churches because they break and tear up all the time and everybody wants to work on them. But yeah, Suzukis are hard. Find a Honda dealer. They're even harder to find. So
yeah, I don't know much about the Honda. I don't see no Hondas really in my area too much. It's mainly Suzuki. And, again, I think that's, Suzuki's a big part of the catfishing world, from sponsorship to, you just see a lot of those on boats. And I had a G2 years ago, and then they went out of business. And like I said, there's a lot of Suzuki.
If my Honda dies on the Lund, I will end up replacing it with a Suzuki because at least there's a Suzuki dealer within driving distance over at Huntley Marine, who I think is one of your Sea Ark dealers right down here in Pineville, North Carolina. So,
he's a big Sea Ark dealer, yeah.
Yep.
I'll make sure he takes you out on a Sea Ark too.
Yeah, Zach, if you're listening, I'm waiting on that trip. In all honesty, Zach, if you're ever looking to buy a Sea Ark, hit up Zach Taylor down in Pineville. Or he's got all kinds of crap down there. I bought my motor from him. But yeah, we have tried to get on the boat together and fish. And most of the time it's been my fault. I've had something come up. So he would do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Zach's on here. So I'm trying to look at some of the questions. Somebody said that the biggest catfish was caught on, the world record was caught on chicken. Matt Miles.
That's what the IGFA affidavit states, that it was caught on chicken. But of course, that's a lie because big fish don't come on chicken. I don't think Alex has ever watched any of my videos before because he'd know.
I have. I know you use some chicken like in Jello or jelly or I don't know, something like that.
I use chicken in just about at least half the rods on every trip I go on. And chicken catches more fish than whatever bait I put on the other rods. I usually fish 6 rods anchored or trolling, and the chicken, the only place chicken will not do as good is flathead fishing, anchored up, targeting flatheads around structure and that kind of stuff. Cut bait will work better. But we have a lot of mussels, Asiatic clams, mollusks that are in our lakes and our drainage, and I think that's the big tie. If you're in a place that doesn't have them, I don't know if it'll work or not, but I can tell you this, I've got enough emails and texts from around the country that show the stuff works. And there's some guys who have sworn they'll kill me if I ever let them know, but have actually won tournaments on some major trails and did it with chicken. So,
yeah, no, Kirk Lucky, if he's not watching, he will be tomorrow. That he has caught a ton of fish, and him and his partner go out, and he uses chicken. His partner uses fresh skipjack, and then whoever catches after the first 3 fish, they have to switch to that one, and they've never switched to skipjack. And like I said, but he did the YouTube. He might have been watching your video to watch the chicken stuff. I don't know.
yeah.
But like
Listen,
I said,
I got known for it, but I wasn't the first one to do it. Luke Nichols from Catfish and Carp did strawberry jello chicken stuff way back. People have been using chicken forever. It's just, I got some traction with it, but it's nothing new. It's no big secret. It's no big discovery.
Yeah, I think Nooner Hall, he catches a lot of big fish. Maybe he was using chicken, but like I said, I know people that are fine. Oh, Kirk's here. Kirk, what's your personal best on chicken? Dieter will be happy. Steve Douglas. Good show.
I had a guide story on the chicken thing. I had a guide called me from Santee Cooper, won't mention his name, was irate that I was showing people I was using chicken to catch these fish. He said, you don't need to be doing that. You don't need to be telling people. He said, we use that down here. And he went on. I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, you got people on the boat. I said, you can't hide the fact that you're using chicken. You're not using, river herring or something. He goes, well, you tell them it's turtle meat. Nobody goes and catches turtles. You tell them it's turtle meat. So turtle meat, guys. If you're using chicken to win tournaments, tell them it's turtle meat. So there you go.
Yeah, Kirk said 94. So 94 is his biggest fish caught on chicken on the Mississippi River. So
nice.
Nooner Hall says Hamilton's spleen from a pig, catch some hogs on it. So I don't know. It's an interesting topic is bait, obviously.
Well, I think the ACA, I assume that's Glenn in there. Glenn said something. He made a post when we were talking about that earlier about something may need to be addressed for like aquaculture, raising bait fish and, aquaculture environments there. Who knows what it'll come to? My God, that'll be expensive. If you think skipjack costs a lot now, that'll really drive the cost up. But yeah, who knows? That could be.
That is a big thing. I mean, bait's a big deal as a tournament angler or just a fun fishing angler. You want to go out there and, it's not bass where you can just go to a store and buy a lure. I mean, you can go buy, I guess, some shad and stuff at Walmart, but it's not easy to catch bait. Bait can be tough and frustrating, throwing a net, all that stuff.
Yep.
So, I think that a lot of people make fun of chicken, especially in the more of the tournament world. Mm-hmm. I did try chicken. But like I said, it's I don't know. I'm not going to use it when I'm being competitive.
Yeah. I've got a video. It'll be coming out in I think April or May talking about catfish bait. And that's the big thing. Most of my viewers are people that are most of them are learning to catch catfish. They are just getting into figuring it out. A lot of them don't even have a boat. They're bank fishermen. And that's one of the things I addressed in the video is, listen, when you're trying to just this afternoon after work, you want to go fish for a couple hours. Okay. You ain't got time to try to throw a cast net and try to catch brim or try to catch a whole bunch of fish. You need something you can just go put on the hook, throw it out there and hope you catch some fish. Then you can play around throwing a cast net or catching some other type bait. You don't need to make it into a event to where you don't go. That's the worst part for people who want to go fishing. They're like, oh, I ain't got time, man. I only got 2 hours. I ain't got time to go catch bait. It'll be dark by the time, try chicken, try some, heck, just using night crawlers. If you got to go to livers, as much as I hate chicken livers, do that. Hot dogs, something, go have fun. But yeah, you're right. The whole tournament world, catching giant fish and all that is probably a different approach and different tactic to it. But the biggest fish last year that we caught on actually, I think the top 3 were all caught on chicken. So, and actually, here's what's bad. And I think our biggest flathead, 48 pounds, was caught on chicken too. We had out, and that bait was out in a different direction from the trees. It was away from the trees. We were putting cut baits and live baits around, and somehow this stupid thing came up and ate chicken. With that said, I don't think it's the best bait for catching flatheads, but we've caught fish on chicken. So There you go. Try shrimp. David Kennedy says try shrimp. I actually did a video on that. Shrimp's not a bad bait. It's actually dependent on where you're at. There's a bunch of guys down on Santee that are guides, and certain times of year, that's all they use is shrimp. So, yeah. Soap, Dustin, soap. That's in one of my 5 worst baits ever created. But somebody was telling me that the ivory soap, the reason it works is because it's made from like distilled down animal fat or something like that.
Yeah, I
And
think
that
so.
is where it gets the proteins and amino acids and stuff that fish are actually attracted to. So, yeah, who knows? Eel is a good bait also. Yes, eel. Mickey Rogers said that. Eel is an excellent bait. We don't have any around here. We used them when we were striper fishing down at the coast. But yeah, I don't know if do you guys have like American eels in the middle of the country anywhere like that?
I don't know. I don't think so. If they are, they're hard to catch.
Yeah, I don't know where those things are. I know they come up into some of the rivers here, and people put out eel pots and stuff for them. But yeah, they're a good
I think
bait live or cut bait.
buy them? Doesn't Chunky like have them shipped in or something?
There's places where he's at down toward the coast there that, I mean, you can buy them from bait stores that have them. They just have big tanks of them in there. And yeah, I think they're about $4 a piece or something, $3 a piece. They're not exactly cheap.
Yeah, got eels in Arkansas. So I don't know. I've not used eels. Like I said, I use shad. I hate using carp.
Yeah.
Shad and skipjack are the 2 main things I use. But
so how hard is it for you to catch skipjack where you're at?
It's not bad. I mean, they migrate up here, so I'm in the biggest dam on the Mississippi in Pool 20. So, in the summer you can catch some, but I catch a lot of moon eye and shad for the most part. But again, for me or for people that don't have a lot of time to go spend chasing bait, having that skipjack frozen. I mean, I'll use frozen skipjack a lot, and it works for me. But
Yeah.
a lot of people travel and catch skipjack every year, and that's to fill up their freezers, and that's we'll have to see if conservation, something has to change with that on bait. But
how big of a difference is there with frozen? Because I have used frozen skipjack. People have brought me. I've used it when I brought it back from Tennessee. It works pretty good. How is it comparatively? Now, again, I have a very limited use with it, frozen versus a fresh one. How does it compare to like a fresh one? Can you tell outside of the mushiness? I know it gets more mushy and stuff. Does it make a difference?
If you've got a good quality frozen skipjack and you thaw it out right, I think it's fresh is better, but I've done really, really good on frozen.
How do you thaw it out better?
So you're supposed to, I learned this from a guy that's been doing it a long time that catches them. And he said to poke a hole in the bag, let it thaw out slowly. The ice will start that thawing process when you take it out of the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gotta, I just read a comment on how to thaw it out. Did you see that?
I didn't see it. No.
Somebody said to pee on it.
I mean, there's that.
But and like I said, it's worked really well. But I mean, you've got to catch them, and you can't let them get hot and all that stuff. But like I said, it's fresh is always best. But I mean, there's some anglers that like to use frozen because it lasts longer, and they say that it kind of falls out in the water and has less.
Oh, so they're putting it on the hook frozen and
pretty frozen. Yeah.
Okay. I see that. Glenn had mentioned mullet, which is a saltwater fish. And yeah, we have used that fishing for catfish, and it does work. It has the same kind of oily feel that skipjack has to it. We've been able to buy it in some of the fish markets around here and stuff, and it actually works as a catfish bait. I brought it back from the coast when I've been down there and been able to net them. And another one that, yeah, seems to work. I think there's a lot of stuff catfish. I think it comes down to confidence is honestly what it is. There's guys that, if you fish with skipjack, that's what you're used to. It's what you caught your biggest fish on. It's what you won a tournament on 2 years ago. You're going to want to fish with skipjack. It's hard to venture outside of that world. It's hard to argue against something that comes from the water that you're fishing in, even though catfish don't have fillet knives and none of the fish are cut up into pieces, like they are that you know, this, I mean, 99% of
that's
the
the
fish.
that's the whole argument there. I mean, it ain't like these catfish are eating, you know, cut bait going down the river.
99% of what they catch is, or what they eat to survive once you become a tournament size fish, is it's live fish. They just don't come across dead fish that often. And
You just said it.
you know, what's
tournament size fish.
Tournament size fish, yeah. And you know, they're eating a lot, you know. Now smaller fish, you know, you get, what is it, around 8 pounds, I believe, is where the biologists say they start consuming. The majority of the food they're consuming is live at that point. Or fish, swimming fish. So yeah, it's no fillet knives down there. But the biggest thing is scent dissemination. That's why we cut bait up. I mean, it's to spread scent. That's why. So they, you know, smell it and key in on it.
Yeah, stop giving out secrets.
9-inch crappie is the best bait ever. It is a good bait if it's legal where you're at. A lot of places you can't use it. You can't use it in South Carolina anymore. You actually can't use skipjack in South Carolina. It's illegal to use skipjack there. North Carolina, we can use crappie. They just have to meet length and creel limit. So
yeah. So I've got a tournament this weekend in Oklahoma, Grand Lake of the Cherokees. You ever heard of that? Grand Lake?
I've heard of the lake. Yep. I saw your promo about it. Yep.
So 5 fish. Okay. 5 fish. But a lot of it, we have a lot of regulations over here. So you can only have 2 over 30 inches. So the other 3 are under 30. So pretty excited about this. And maybe we can get you to come over to one of our events this year and do some media and hang out.
Fish with chicken. I can fish with chicken. I'll fish with chicken.
Like I said, but I, you know, again,
anybody I place ahead of has to pay me $100. Fair enough.
Yeah. Hey, just one last thing. So you said that you've seen me earlier. You said you don't see me promote stuff, but you said that you see me promote that tournament.
Yep, I seen that. It came up in a feed somewhere, and I don't know if that's because, you know, YouTube and Facebook and everything is. That came up in a feed that I saw. I think it was No, it wasn't a video. It was a fixed promo for the tournament out there, because I remember reading the name of the lake off of it. So
Grand Lake of the Cherokees. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Again, and like I said, we'll do some. I don't know what that is. There's a lot of YouTube people on here. Hopefully, Dieter, we get some followers for me.
Hopefully you do, man. I tried to promo it out on all my platforms. Hopefully some of my people came over and subscribed. I think you got good stuff. That's that's kind of the bad thing, is that what you're doing is really cool. And what you're doing with the tournaments, I think, is going in a good direction. And, you know, people need to get exposed to it. That's the hard part. It's just getting the exposure. You can have the best thing in the world, and then, you know, if nobody's seeing it, it doesn't really matter. We had a guy locally right down the road here. I can't even remember his channel name now. This is so bad. But I've watched his stuff because he fishes on the Catawba River. And let me see if I see it real quick. Yep, it's Andy Hines. Okay. The guy had this channel that was like 500, 600, 700, 800 viewers, whatever. And I'd watch his stuff. It's just kind of laid back, you know. It's not even Richard Gene, the fishing machine level of intensity. It's just kind of laid back stuff. And somebody promoted him somewhere, shouted him out somewhere, and he's over 1 million subscribers now. And I don't even know if he's got 100 videos up yet. And it's all because somebody said something and they laid eyeballs on them. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to make a fortune and a pile of money, because you still got to have people watching it. Subscribers are for your ego and views are for your bank account. But, you know, I say all that to say, you know, getting your stuff out there, more and more people seeing it. I think that's good. I think they'll like your content. I think my viewers will like watching your show and watching your content. I think you've got good stuff in there. As long as you don't bore them with tournament fishing too much, as long as you get some other stuff in there, it'll be good. So.
The tournament fishing is fun. Watch the videos, but like I said, this podcast, I don't know that we talked about a lot of value tonight. I mean, this is probably one of those podcasts that we're talking about the industry and where it's going, where it's been, all that stuff. Is it bass? Will it get to bass? Who knows? But, you know, I don't know.
Here's the thing, though. It's like the Zaldane podcast that you listen to and that I listen to religiously from the bass fishing world. Okay. They don't sit there and talk about bass fishing tips and how to flip this and how to flip that. And let's rig up this wacky head. It ain't about that. It's about the industry, the lifestyle, the business. That stuff I think has more appeal and value than talking about a tournament, how you're preparing for it and what kind of rig you're using and blah, 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 blah. That's just kind of the same rinse and repeat stuff that you hear from everybody. None of these tournament guys you have in here are going to give you any super secret great tips. It's going to be, we're going to go out there and try to mark the fish.
Some of the one-on-one stuff, I think, like when we're doing the one-on-one, everything's getting seen. You know what I mean? And I think that there's going to be some growth at. And Kevin, I know Kevin's been doing it for a long time. I'm waiting for Kevin to invite me to one on his live tournaments. Kevin, hopefully you're listening. But the 1v1, that's Rhett's term or whatever.
1v1.
1v1. I wish he was here. He's at my niece's volleyball games right now, but I think that there's a lot of growth that's going to be done in that. And then that's not a 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 fish limit. It's as many as you catch in MLF style. And it's fun. And I love it. Like that was the first, I've been doing tournaments for 10 years, fishing them, or 12 years. And again, not that I've done well, but I've won 2 boats. I've won some money. But one thing is the money and the stuff, I don't know where it goes. It's probably wasted on some dumb stuff, but I can go downstairs in the plaques and everything that I've won. I can look at every plaque from a Fishing for Freedom plaque to an MRM or Sea Arc or any event that I've been a part of. And I can tell you what I did that day, how I did it, what I caught, who was with me. And they got a saying, the money don't last, but the plaques or the hardware is forever. But I don't know. I like the one-on-one, and that's something that I'm trying to grow with Twisted Cat and the ACA and Brian and our ideas. And I have no idea what's next. I mean, I think maybe Mike or who is the Joe Schmo? Somebody brought that up. It was Brian St. Ama against the Joe Schmo in your podcast.
I may have referred to him as whoever he was fishing against, and I don't even remember who it was. I only remember Brian because I seen him around and only spoke to him down at iCast. Yeah, I referred to the guy that, and honestly, in that podcast, I thought I was going to piss off a lot more regular tournament anglers than with stuff like that. Because again, there's no identity to them. I think that's probably what you're referring to. Is that? I guess I don't know. I have to look and see.
Yeah. Well, I think there's some growth to that too. And again, that shows people that, we're out there doing it. That you do. But yeah, so like I said, this is an interesting conversation. It's not a lot of value, but it's bringing up the topics, of how we've got there. The BOC, I was actually on a Twitch podcast, and Eric, you know who Eric Simic is with BOC?
Yeah, the BOC. I hadn't heard those initials used in a long time. Yeah.
So Eric, Sea Art got with him back in 2004, I think 2006. And actually, there's an old picture of Steve. I need to get, if I can find it, I'll have to bring it up. But that's a long time ago. I was in high school back in 2004. And I didn't get any of that BOC stuff, but I guess it was a big deal back then. And so going on a Twitch, but I don't even know what Twitch is really. It's like a gamers podcast. So I was on it. Right. It was pretty fun. And to talk to somebody, as I call an OG, which again, OG are the people that are kind of the founding people that have been around a long time.
What does OG stand for?
Old guy?
I thought the hip is original gangster. I thought that was from the streets.
I gotta ask my son then. Yeah,
that's your son. I think that's what OG actually stands for. Yeah.
Dylan Boston. He's fishing some tournaments. 2004. He was 6 years old.
Yeah. Why do you fish tournaments? Gangster. Why do you fish tournaments?
Why who?
Why do you fish them? Why does anybody fish them? But I think you can speak to your reason of why you do it.
Why do I fish tournaments? I don't know. I'm extremely competitive, and one of my first things when I went out fishing, here in this pool 20 on the Mississippi River, I caught my first fish, and then there was a little tournament popped up, night tournament, and I went and fished it. Got 4th out of 25 boats, and out of those 25 boats, 4 boats used cut bait. So I got fourth, which was interesting to me. And I don't know, I just got competitive and I started watching. I hooked up with Chris Wallace, Fudd. He had some stuff going on. I talked to him. And then when I got into sport, I bought a Sea Arc Easy 200 because I had a fiberglass. I had a Donzi, not a fishing boat at all. It was going to the sandbar. So bought that easy, kind of a mix of a pleasure and play, and went to Monsters on the Ohio and just loved everything about it. The camaraderie, the dinner the night before, meeting other people that are passionate about fishing like me. That's when I met Seth McAllister. He's a little older than me, but we would have been in our late 20s. And at that time at Monsters on the Ohio, a big tournament, we're the youngest, some of the youngest anglers there. And I just love that, being competitive in the side bets and all that stuff. And now I can go travel to Monsters on the Ohio, get my butt kicked, and find out what I did wrong. And now there's 200 other boats out there. And, Larry Muse that time got on them. Well, Larry Muse was fishing, or was dead sticking or drifting back then, which was kind of new. And I didn't know what that was. I was just going and throwing anchor rods and falling asleep. So I just learned and I wanted to get better. And I also agree or believe that tournaments give you that. When you go out there and you get your butt kicked, you get that humble pie. You know what I mean? But you learn, was it on a sand flat? Were they on deep mud? Were they on the rock ledge? And you learn what was right that day, even though I had a terrible day. I mean, Brian, if you're on here, Brian and Coy, we had a big side bet at MRM pre-fishing. We had a rough couple days. Brian and Coy were on them, and we kind of found fish on Friday afternoon, and the fish that they were after disappeared. And he ate some humble pie and paid it and wrote a $20 or signed a $20 bill for me. So I don't know. I love being competitive. I love putting on events. And it kind of led me to Twisted Cat and chasing sponsors and learning how to get sponsors. And, I love it. I mean, everything I do in my life now revolves around catfishing, or fishing in general. I went crappie fishing for the first time, first time I used live scopes. Now I'm getting live scope, and who knows, maybe that'll transition into the catfishing sport. But I just absolutely love tournament fishing.
Yep. I think Colton Howell had a good comment. Tournament fishing is more of a lifestyle, and I think that's a good summation of it in one sentence. I do think that is a different lifestyle culture feel than people that just go out on their big getaway trips, go down to around here, let's go down to Santee for the weekend and hang out. I do think there is a love for the circus, the event, and I say all that. We used to shoot a lot of stuff when ESPN on Bass, and back in the mid 2000s, and there was a circus event atmosphere to the tournaments, the way they went on. And, it was a festival. It was, and when we did the classic, when it came to Charlotte, North Carolina, way back when Takahiro Omori won it, just a total freak show, it was awesome. It was a great show. I was amazed at how good the show was for a fishing tournament. And that was then. Now, the one they did in Knoxville was last year before last. Unbelievable what they did with that one. So
I was
it's
there.
all part of
that was absolutely incredible. That got me as a tournament director and a tournament angler, just a person in fishing. I was fired up. I mean, just everything about it.
And when you see that, you go, it's why I make the comments I make. When you see that being done, you're like, it's not going to be that great, but it's like what you're doing, you can make it better than, where it's been. And let me just say this, not all tournaments need to do that. My local Southeastern Catfish Club here, which is a great tournament series run as good as any tournament series around, gets way more boats than they need in every tournament. They don't ever need to be that. They're perfectly happy. The anglers are perfectly happy being where they're at. Not every tournament has to get bigger and bigger and bigger, but I think there's a place for some of those bigger events, and I think they can be something like that. And I think I say all that to say it's that lifestyle. It's that feel. It's that just feeling of being a part of something like that going on. Some of it's what you conjure up in your head, but that's all part of it. It's like going to a rock concert. It's like going, I think we were talking about this the other day. It's like the dirt track racing world. When it comes to dirt track, short track racing, there's people that do that. They're competing. They're competitive. They're never going to be great. They're never going to probably break even on how much money they're spending to race those cars. But that Friday, Saturday night, some of them Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And that is a lifestyle. It is on the road, going to the next one, getting ready, very little sleep, spending all kinds of money. And it's a lifestyle that they're married to and they've fallen in love with. And I think that's the thing that makes the tournament world work. So that was a good summation. I've always liked to ask people that just to see what their take. I mean, some people are on.
Yeah. I mean, I am just literally 110%. And the people that know me and have followed me over the last 10 years, like everything I do is I want to make the event the best I can for an angler. Also, because I'm an angler myself. I'm fishing tournaments or I'm putting on tournaments, but Tom Stoles is on here. Hiring him to come shoot an event is not for me. It's to get pictures because those guys are spending their hard-earned money that they worked for to come fish a tournament, and they might not win anything. They might not go home with anything, but one thing, they're going to have a memory, and they're going to have a good event that was put on. And like I said, it's not just a tournament. The tournament is just one thing. It's the whole event in itself. The night before, after the tournament, the hanging out, the camaraderie, the meeting people, learning what they did. And they're starting to become a little bit of celebrity status in tournament worlds like social media where, Tyler Barnes shows up and people want to shake
Absolutely.
his hand. I mean, look at the CatCon last year. The last 2 years, you've had people that are signing autographs. The first year I went to the Catfish conference, there was nobody signing autographs. There are people like cleaning their shoes from the oil stains. You know what I mean? That's a big thing. I mean, it really is. And like I said, it's grown a lot and it's going to continue, in my opinion. Everybody's got one, but it's going to continue to grow. And like I said, as long as we keep getting people that are passionate about it, and I am extremely passionate, I'm thinking of the next thing that I can do or grow or make another event. Like the 1v1 stuff. You know what I mean? I want to do one more of those. I'm not sure how or where or anything like that, but it's so much fun to be a part of. I wasn't even fishing on the second one with Mike and Brian. And I had an absolute blast being in that boat and trying to showcase what Mike Mitchell is doing, how he's fishing, why he's making this move. He's talking back and forth to people, sort of what they do on with Kevin. Kevin's got, I think, maybe 8 different YouTubers on there. This, I just personally, and a lot of people, I see comments where they say, well, let's do a bracket style or some of that. To me, a bracket style, you lose that. That's more of a tournament. This 1v1 is 1v1. It's passionate. It's Alex versus Dieter. Maybe that's what we need. I mean, nobody's going to want to follow me, but you know what I mean? The 1v1 is that more passionate. It's just if you win or lose. You know what I mean? Like when me and Brian fished, he kicked my butt the first couple hours, and then I changed. I made a move and came back and almost won. Yeah. It's fun.
I think the 1v1 has really good potential, but what y'all have got to do is you have got to build the characters. People have got to know who they are. People have to be able to identify with
100%.
them. They have to know who they are, and that's what the tournament world is lacking. Rusty brought up a question earlier, and it's to the point there is that's where the problem is with the tournament anglers that I see is that they haven't built an identity for themselves, and it's almost left to the tournament directors like yourself that are trying to get it to the next level. Either you have to do it or it's kind of a catch-22. You kind of end up chasing your tail trying to make it happen. But if you got those people, like you're saying, like a Tyler Barnes who has some type of identity and fishes tournaments, you've got somebody that at least people go, oh, I know who he is. He's that guy that caught that big flathead and has a bobblehead. They at least have a connection to him so they know who he is. If Joe Schmo is out there, I don't know who the guy is. I mean, dude, he could be somebody that was like a decorated Navy SEAL or something and is retired and is now fishing tournaments. Wow. If you knew that part of the story, all of a sudden you've got somebody that somebody can identify with. And it doesn't have to be anything that grand. It could be something just something so that people have a connection to these people. It can be me who a bunch of people want to hate and want to see lose and want to see to get their butt kicked. That'll bring in people watching too. And that's what you need. Those you got to build those somehow. And
Yeah,
I think that'll
but I
be
mean,
one of
like Colton House said, I mean, Tyler Barnes is a great tournament angler. He is a tournament angler, but he's also a social media star, and he's built them both. And
yeah.
People can follow that. And I think that we're going to start having more Tyler Barnes. You know what I mean? Again, my opinion on who I think are really good anglers. People will. I mean, I won't even say their names because a lot of people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
But if they made the Tyler Barnes, you know what I mean? Tyler Barnes has done well, and I think as he travels and gets going, I think that you're going to see a lot of. I keep bringing him up, but I really believe that you
He's
take a Tyler Barnes as a great angler.
He's one of the closest things that you have, and most people that are watching this probably don't know who he is. I know who he is because I've done a podcast with him. I've talked to him. He's right here on the East Coast. He's in the same state I am, but people on the other side of the mountains probably don't know who he is. I mean, he's not in the tournament scene, so to speak, but he at least has a presence. He at least has some type of something there. I mean, it's really bad. And he really doesn't fish any tournaments outside of that one river that he fishes on. He's kind of like me. He's got one, river that he fishes on. I gave him credit this weekend. He fished the ice bowl. He got his butt kicked, and he still posed with like an 8-pound fish, which was the only fish they caught. He still had the gumption to get out there and say, hey, we fished it. We got beat, but we're here. And guess what? He stuck his brand out there in front for everybody to see it. And he did what every tournament fisherman that wants to be something in the catfishing industry needs to be doing if you're serious about taking it to the next level. Notice how I circled that right back to where we started.
No, 100%. And I don't disagree with that. I think, and Tyler Barnes is one to follow. He says it's all in the teeth. So I guess I like my teeth.
He knows. His best smile in the business, baby. Best smile in catfishing.
Yeah. And like I said, like Landon said, there's a lot of good social media followers or people out there. You just got to grind. And like I said, we're going to have this conversation. I even believe it's going to be different in 6-8 months. There's so many people that Tyler's going to start traveling. He's coming to the Sea Arc owners. He's going to go to Alabama for the first time, and he's excited to get out. He sure has some white teeth. But we need that Bill Dance of the world, you know what I mean? And again, Bill Dance, G-Man, those popular guys, they're not great tournament anglers. They might not be good anglers at all, but they are out there grinding.
And I made that comment on a post I seen somewhere. George Young posted a picture of whatever tournament he's running, and there's a picture of Bill Dance holding up a fish. And I made the statement, and no disrespect to Bill Dance. I mean, he's the most identifiable face in fishing, but it's a shame we don't have somebody from the catfish world that can be that person. Granted, he's fished for catfish. He's done shows with catfish, but he's not endemic to the catfish world like so many other anglers out there that have fished. It's just bad we don't have somebody like that. And the other bad thing is Bill ain't going to be around forever. And who's going to be the person that we're going to, have out there holding the fish that's going to be the face? I don't know if we have anybody. I don't know if we will have anybody. Hopefully we will. That would be, I think, something really good. It may come from that identifiable face, may come from somewhere outside of the tournament world, to be quite honest.
But we're still bringing up names. We're still bringing up names that have been around for so long. And that's where in my thoughts, from Sea Art getting involved in the early 2000s to really, to me, Monsters on the Ohio, the World Championship, that stuff was before 2000. I don't know that there was really catfish tournaments.
Before what?
Before the 2000s. There really wasn't. But nothing like we are. I mean, a lot of them are weighing out of the back of their truck.
There was the World Championship of Catfishing that I did a podcast with Steve Douglas about. I know that was going on. The ones that I fished were, they were small, fruit jar type tournaments. Let's write everything down on a notepad kind of thing. As far as big spectacles, I think there was another big one somewhere that was kind of an event kind of deal. But yeah, you're right. They probably haven't gotten, they've gotten a lot bigger. And I think a lot of that we can thank for social media. I think that has
100.
really helped to really disseminate, because you could have a big tournament somewhere, but I wouldn't have known about it. I remember when we heard about Cabela's King Cat, and it's like, oh, there's the Cabela's King Cat. When it, there you had to dig to find the information, and that was early 2000s. So before that, yeah, it was even harder with the internet. It was not as easy to find stuff. It wasn't handed to you. You had to go look for it. It was there on the internet somewhere. You had to go look for it. Now, just the fact that I said King Cat, it'll probably show up on my phone here, their next tournament here in a minute, because we know they're listening to us. So there you go.
Yeah. But the point is, again, we're talking about it. We're talking about catfishing. We've got people making money following it. And, there's a lot of people on here that are some OGs too, I guess, which is original gangster. So it's not old guy.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good thing. You're considered.
Why does the old guy know the answer to that one? That's what's bad. Now, here's the thing. Out of all the stuff we've talked about, out of all the people I pissed off tonight, somebody's going to have watched this and they're going to hear something. It's going to resonate with them and they're going to go do something. Probably Tyler Barnes. He's probably already started another brand or something, but it'll resonate with them. They'll take it. They'll build on it. They'll do something. It may be something you heard tonight that something hit you all of a sudden. That's the great thing about these kind of discussions and this kind of talk, is that it gets stuff out there, gets people thinking, gets wheels turning, and makes things better. Change happens, and there's nothing bad going to come out of a discussion like this. Nothing may happen, but the potential is for something good to happen out of it. So that's what I like about
it. 5 real fishing, Tyler Barnes.
He's one step up. There you go. There you go.
So yeah, and again, I think something I'm taking out of it, and what I wanted people to take out of it tonight, is, in my eyes, it's growing. I think it's growing fast, but the point is, it's growing. Tournaments are growing. Social media is growing. And it's so cool that could you imagine trying to go make it big in bass right now? That would be hard. It'd be very tough.
Yeah. Unless you're just a social media wizard. And
yeah,
100%. That's the one thing. We're a young person, and I think it's why some of the young people there do so much better. And I think it's why the young people probably have an advantage in the catfish tournament world and just in the social media world, is they're generally more into that world. They get it more. They grew up on it.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what you have. The Tyler Barnes, I think he said he's 26 or 28. We don't have a lot of that. Dylan Lawson's another one that just kind of got in. There's a lot of younger kids now. Crazy that I'm calling people in their 20s kids, but there's a lot of younger people that are getting involved and are fired up, and they haven't, I'm not going to say easy opportunity, but go try to get in bass, go try to get sponsors, fish tournaments, be social media superstar in bass. Good luck. But catfish, we're just getting started.
Yeah. The biggest thing is you got to, Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's in its fledgling. It's young year. The biggest thing is those kids, young people, whatever you want to call them, they just got to get out there and hustle. They got to get out there and grind it out. It's not that an older established person can't do it. I think they'd probably have more leverage, but the young people have I don't give a crap. You get older, all the people over here in this section, that are good with one-liners, that's all they got. They don't have the ability to get out there and take a chance and screw up and look stupid on camera and all that stuff. They're too scared to do that. It's a lot of times when you're younger, you just don't know any better. Ignorance is bliss, as the saying goes, and that's to their advantage. And yeah, maybe we'll see one come out somewhere and be the next one that's going to do.
But
something.
There's a lot of anglers that fish my trail that don't know who Phil King is. I mean, that goes to show you that.
I mean, you have to be from kind of far back to know who Phil King is. I mean, he's really not been relevant in the past decade. I mean, 5 years, whatever. I mean, he's really, you kind of have to kind of go back a ways. And yeah, I mean, there's not really anybody that's that I think jumps out as far as a catfish tournament angler. As far as, he was probably one of the biggest one, and I think it's because I think that was his tie to, Cabela's King Cat, that trail then. We just don't have anybody yet. So, it, we don't, the tournament world can keep going on the path it's on and everything will be just fine. The world ain't coming to an end. The industry isn't going to implode on itself. Everything will be just fine if nothing really changes anymore than where it's at now. Would it be more interesting? Maybe so. But we would be just fine. But as you said earlier, there's potential for somebody who is a hustler and wants to put in the work and is the biggest thing can let go of instant gratification. That's probably the biggest obstacle to the young people. They got the energy to drive. They understand the social media. It's just that instant gratification. That's like this invisible wall that hinders so many of them. If they get past that, dude, there's a lot of potential for stuff out there. I don't know that the current tournament anglers, anybody out of that pool is going to, maybe they will. I hope one of them proves me wrong and comes back here and points the finger and says, man,
my goal is to make him prove you wrong. I mean,
I
will, like I said,
do it.
I want to see doing the podcast, the one-on-one, all that stuff. And so we'll have to talk. Are you going to CatCon?
Right now, we are scheduled to do a bunch of stuff for a major national news outlet during the presidential primary that weekend in South Carolina. That is like that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If Nikki Haley drops out between now and then, odds are we won't be there. So, but I don't think she's going to do it because South Carolina's her home state. So I probably won't be there. And that sucks, but this is like a once every 4 year thing. So I'll probably be tied up on that. So I don't think I'll make it. Best case scenario, I may be able to jump on a plane Friday night and fly in and show up Saturday. So we'll see what happens. I hate it too, because this will be 2 years in a row I didn't get to go. So it kind of sucks. I need to get back out there, but there's a lot more money waiting in South Carolina. So there you go.
Well, if you do come, I'd like to get you to sit in my Sea Ark so I can get a picture of that.
I'd love that. Which one are you going to have your boat there?
I'll have my boat there.
Which one do you have? Which model do you have?
Dynasty.
Okay. Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. That would be good. It'd be a better picture. It'd be a better picture if I was on the water in it. That would be a better picture, but we can make that happen at another point too. So.
Yeah, we can make that happen. And Claude, I'm reading yours. If we keep going on the path, it's going to be no catfish to fish for. We got to have that conservation. I agree, but I do think that as more eyes get on it, as the social media, the tournaments, and the outside world, the ACA, and like I said, what Glenn has done, what we're trying to do, you can talk negative and be against it, but who else is putting in the work?
Bingo. I mean, if anybody wants to step up and do a better job, go for it. I mean, we've been waiting, 2 decades I have to see anybody step up and put an organization together, and it happened. It hadn't happened. This has been the first one that's had any traction whatsoever. And I hope they can keep swinging the stick and, eventually get a home run with it. They've had some base hits, they put some runners on base. They've had some stuff that they've been attached to, and, it's just making that jump over to get the common angler involved. They've done a good job with the tournament. The business plan and the business model around the whole tournament series stuff has worked out. But getting something the common angler can join in on, it's always equated to like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation or Trout Unlimited or something like that, to where, Trout Unlimited is a good one because it's, there is no tournament fishing there. It's really about conservation and protecting the resource, and, making sure it's there for future generations, protecting waterways and all that. So it's a little harder to do that in the catfish world. And that's a whole nother topic for another long podcast, because I'll end up pissing off a whole bunch of people in that one too. But there's some stuff that has to change there, and some attitudes that have to change for that to happen. So keep doing what you're doing. ACA, Glenn, I know you're over there.
Yeah, like I said, anytime I've ever needed anything, he's always taken care of it. I know other people that have reached out to him, and people that have had issues with Glenn, and once they reached out and had that conversation, it got squashed, and they've changed their attitude about it. But
and
again, my goal is,
I'll
I want
continue to give him crap about stuff. When he does something stupid, I'll still let it be known. But it's only when I have a better way to do it that I'll say anything. So, he's doing more than I could ever do. I'll tell you that right now. I couldn't do what he's doing and what he's, pulling together, trying to do. I'm a critic and a fan. I don't know anybody out there who can do what he's doing. And if you're there, please step up. I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, like Steve Douglas said, Kentucky regs are way better. When they started in 2013 and started the process, and again, we can have a bunch of people doing that in Kentucky and Illinois and Texas, but when we make an organization and we come together as a whole, a tournament angler, a social media star, a fishing guide, when you put it all in one, you're much stronger than all these different organizations, than all these people going. So just keep after it.
Yeah, I give Glenn credit. I can be very narrow in my focus and my lane that I see, and it can be somewhat self-serving, self-centered in what I'm looking at. And Glenn's really good at seeing the bigger picture and stuff. Granted, it's not always what other people want to see. May not always be what people want him to be looking at, but he understands. Here's the thing he does better than anybody, and this is a love-hate relationship. He's a better politician when it comes to dealing with the political stuff and I don't mean politics as in Democrat, Republican, but the political climate of the fishing industry and legislatures and all that. He understands how to play that game a little bit. Part of that is his business partner is deeply intertwined in all that. And they get that better than anybody else out there. And like I said, if you think you're any better at it, step up. We'd love to meet you.
Yeah, no, 100%. Thanks. Hey, thanks for being on this crazy couple-hour show.
This is, man. This is the longest one I've done.
We did explore the world of catfishing, and like I said, you have a lot different view.
We explored a corner of it.
Well, a quarter, but you got a lot different view than I have. And then, like I said, I'm really enjoying this because now I'm starting to take these podcasts to YouTube and learn how to try to grow my YouTube, which is a lot of anglers, and I'm trying to grow the anglers. And everything I try to do is to grow the sport, whether it's conservation, sponsors, and all that. But everybody can learn a little bit from tonight's show. And like I said, my biggest thing is when we get done, I'm just gonna play a little tidbit of this. What was the name of the podcast that G-Man's on here?
It's Zaldane is the angler. It's him and his wife Trey, and is it Chris Zaldane? Dangerous, I believe is what it's called. Yeah,
and it is absolutely awesome. I'm not even one of those that can I can't go back and watch this podcast, but I'm starting to get that mindset, and I'm watching some of this bass stuff to learn. But what they go through and stuff, like I said, after watching some of these podcasts, you got to be an absolute animal to get into that world. I'm sure some people just give up, and he talks about the kids that their dads are working 2 jobs to get them a boat so they can fish every day. That's incredible. And our sport, anybody can I really believe that somebody could just today jump in, go all in, social media, fishing, and make a star of themselves in catfishing. Much easier than any other fish species, in my opinion. And I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to start seeing that.
Yeah,
really do.
I do think
we're going to have this conversation again.
Yeah, we'll finish. The next one, the next podcast we'll do. If you haven't lost all your viewers for having me on here, catfish tournament fishing is a rich man's game. That'll be the topic of the next one. Don't say another word about it. We'll stop there, or we'll be on here till 2:00 in the morning. But catfish tournaments, a rich man's game. That'll be the topic. Yeah. We'll do that one in March or so.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else you want to add? Again, thanks for being on here. Like I said,
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on here, man. This has been a fun one.
Okay. So everybody, thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed, I hate doing that. I'm doing it for my son.
Don't do it. Listen, if you're not subscribed, go down, hit the subscribe, turn on the notifications, hit that little bell thing so you're notified. Because just because you subscribe doesn't mean that they will let you know every time he has a video. Hit that little button for the bell, and then hit a like, get a thumbs up. None of that really matters. Subscribe and make sure that but yeah, hit a like and a thumbs up. So
yeah. So like I said,
does that make you feel better? Does that make you feel better?
That makes me feel better. I'm gonna get good on this YouTube stuff. But thank everybody so much for watching. This has been a long podcast. Monday, and people that do podcasts, my hat's off to you. I'm trying to do one every Monday night, and it is brutal. I mean, it really takes a toll. It's 9:37. It's 10:37 where you're at, but again, it's just that grind. Get out there, grind. I'm gonna play this quick G-Man thing before I end the show. So if you guys want to stick around, just kind of, and then I'll share this in the comments. But watch the whole podcast. But I'm just gonna play just a little bit of clip, just a little clip. It's interesting. We're gonna start it at right there. Okay, I'm gonna share this again. Dieter, thanks for being on. Hang on just a second. We'll talk here backstage. Just 1 second.
She was doing a social media. She sat through a class. A company wanted her to call in. They said, we want Joe to sit on a social media call. They text back and said, really not him. We just do it offering to everybody. So my wife's like, I'm listening. You don't have to listen, but I'm going to listen to see what they offer. But they were saying like a goldfish's attention span is like 10 seconds. A human's attention span is like 6.
I believe it.
So we're a little bit slower than a goldfish. So that's why if you looked at just that and said, how do I want to do my social media? Remember that.
Catch them quick.
Catch them quick and move on. Don't be redundant.
Yeah.
And don't be scared to post something simple.
Yep.
You know, I didn't catch them today, so I'm on dog crap duty. Trace got me picking up dog poop from 3 dogs, and she said if I don't catch them next week, I'm not even gonna get a bag. I'm gonna do it with my bare hand. Why? Because that's when I don't catch them, I go out and pick up dog poop.
Yeah.
It's not that I think sometimes don't be afraid to post your life, but be ready. There will be haters. I mean, I tell everybody there's people on Facebook don't love Jesus. He ain't done nothing to nobody. So just get ready. If you put it out there, nobody loves everybody.
Yeah.
But it lets the fans, like, they don't know what to expect next. They click on your page because they're like, we're following his life. He's in Arizona. He's here. That's a big deal. Like, they don't want to see the same thing every day.
They almost live a little bit vicariously through you guys.
Yep. They want to see, like, they want to see how you guys camper. They want to see how you do the studio. They want to know where Chris is at. And you've been moving and shaking. Like, I mean, I've been following you on, like, you've been, what was you at, New Zealand, Netherlands?
Netherlands. Yeah, Charles and I were in the Netherlands. Charles, did you find a girlfriend over there or no? No girlfriend.
Charles.
You had a good time, though.
So what took you to the Netherlands?
Yeah.
All right. So again, I'm just sharing that with you guys, and I'll share the whole podcast, but that just kind of shows you. Get on there, post a little bit about your life sometimes. If you don't catch the fish, you were out there, have fun with it. You know what I mean? But again, that was an awesome podcast. And hopefully, if you don't want to build your social media, don't worry about it. Do what you want to do. If you want to fish tournaments and do your own thing, that's fine. If you want to grow your social media and don't fish tournaments, that's fine too. But have fun. Number one, have fun.
Bingo.
That's all that matters.
Enjoy the ride, baby.
So Dieter, stay on. Everybody else, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next Monday night. And we do got a really cool guest coming up. Not that he's cooler than Dieter, but Mitch with NBT Marine. I've got a 22-inch NBT called the Battleship going on my boat actually this week. Colton's doing a special mount for it. But we're going to kind of talk about that, how to integrate that in your boat with your sonar and all that stuff. So that'll be a really cool podcast here, hopefully in 2 weeks. So if not, we'll see you this Saturday at Grove, Grand Lake of the Cherokees for our stop number 2 on the trail. And everybody have a wonderful rest of your evening and a good week. And we're out.
See ya.